Bum, ba-da-da. Going live. Hey, there it is. All right, hello. Welcome everybody to the Wednesday stream. We're doing something a little bit different today. We are going to be doing a tier list of all the new legendary creatures that can be your commander from the new Crimson Vow sets. So the standard set and the accompanying commander sets. Let me double check that we are good and everything and the volume is all right. And then we're going to be quickly posting on socials and everything. We're going to be quickly posting on... Oh, I can hear myself. That's good. Hello. Hey, Niatic. Hey, Erebos. Hello, Pedro. Hello, Jacob. Welcome. I'm just going to quickly post on the socials and everything that we are live. And then we're going to get started. We got 25 new cards to talk about. So not the craziest amount, but also still a significant chunk. And I also like to ramble a lot, so we'll be taking your sweet time. All right, let me quickly post. Ranking all the new Crimson Vow commanders in a tier list. Boom. All right. That is step one. Step two is we broadcast it. Boom. The Adriano aren't for it is... Gosh, where did I put it? There it is. Found it. All right, cool. Let's say 2 hours. All right, broadcasted. We're good. Hey, everybody. I am live. Hello, Veron. Hey, Dan. Hey, Caiaphas. You're hiding the dead plant back there, Tomer? The plant is fine. Everybody keeps asking about the plant. The plant is fine. You can have a good look at it. The plant's very shy, so it can't come up close to the camera. But I assure you that both plants are alive for now. And just a reminder, if you're so concerned with the plants, maybe you should subscribe to the channel, because when we get to the 50k sub goal, we're gonna do a plant giveaway. I think we're gonna be handing out plant tokens of artwork of the plant. I think that's the goal, because I obviously can't send the plants very easily through the mail. But if you're concerned about the plant's well-being, you can immortalize them before... I'm not saying the plants are going to live forever. They're immortal. They're doing fine. I water them. They get some sunlight, But if you want to immortalize them, if you want to make sure you see them as they are, healthy and pure and innocent, you could just get to the 50k, and then we'll immortalize them in token form or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's off topic, though. The plants are fine. We are here talk about a tier list, and we're gonna get started on that. We're not gonna diddle dally all day long. So over here you can see, I don't know, I'll share it afterwards, but over here you can see it's just a simple old tier list. We got every single new legendary that can be your commander from Crimson Vow and the Crimson Vow commander set, 25 of them in total, and we're gonna rank all of them from S being the best and D to be doo-doo. For now, I can't subscribe anymore. I already have, because I've already subscribed. Well, thank you. You've done your part last Raycon. Tier on. All right. All right. Let's get started. Actually, let me get a little bit of my coffee in me, and then we'll get started. All right. Actually, I need to close the blinds a little bit because I can't really see the screen. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right. Cool. we kick things off with the first alphabetically, and that's Anya, or Anya, I don't know, Anya, Maid of Dishonor. This is a Rakdos 4-mana legendary creature vampire, 4/5, so it's, those are some pretty impressive stats. I mean, for a Rakdos creature, is already a 4/5, 4-mana 4/5, that's pretty decent. When it enters the battlefield, when it or one or more other vampires enter the battlefield under your control, you create a blood token. This ability triggers only once each turn. You can also spend 2 and sacrifice another creature or blood token. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Honestly, I like this one. I'm a big fan of the blood mechanic because they're artifact tokens. So a lot of artifact decks can use them for artifact synergies. Like, they're great for, if you have a Goblin Welder in your deck, you can sacrifice the blood token to, get back some really important artifact. For those who don't know Goblin Welder, there's a couple variants of this, but all of these are like, you sacrifice an artifact, you get back an artifact from your graveyard. That's like a very red thing. And there's Goblin Welder and Goblin Engineer, and I think Duretti, one of the Durettis, does it as well. So all of those are really good. So I really like blood tokens. This is a really efficient way of making at least 1 blood token per turn cycle. But there's also a sub-theme that vampires has, specifically the Innistrad vampires from Shadows over Innistrad block, and they were associated heavily with the madness mechanic. And actually, the first time we saw Anya, she was actually leading a precon that was all about vampire madness. Well, mostly madness, not so much vampires, but they are linked together. So the original version was Anya Falkenrath. This one was just a rummager, a really efficient rummager. It has haste and everything, but it rummages, and then if you discard a card that had madness, you can untap Anya. So this kind of fits the mold of what new Anya is doing, where you're enabling these rummaging effects. And that really enables all of the madness style cards. So if you go for a vampire madness deck, Anya is really interesting in that regard as well, because she ties in vampires. She gives you blood tokens. You can use them to rummage or do artifact synergies, but you can also lean in on the madness side of things. And also, that's another really cool way of actually triggering the blood token effect more than once per turn cycle, because generally speaking, most vampires don't have flash. You have to cast them on your turn, and that's basically it. And there's not a lot of token generators that I know of that are super efficient in Vampire Tribal that doesn't come with like a massive downside or something like that. I think there's one that's like Olivia's Recruits or something like that. I think you can like discard a card to make a vampire token at instant speed. But madness cards can be played at any time whenever you would discard them. So let's say you make a blood token, you play a vampire on your turn, you make a blood token, then you can crack the blood token on somebody else's turn, discard Anya's Ravager and cast it for its madness cost. That enters the battlefield on your opponent's turn, and then you get to make another blood token. So there are ways of getting more than 1 blood token per turn cycle. You probably won't be doing it that often, but the option is there, and that's really cool to me too. And it kind of also, again, rewards you for playing more madness vampires. So that's really cool. I love madness vampires. It's my favorite sub-theme of Vampire Tribal. So this one really works really well with it. And the last part of it, the activated ability, it's okay. It's great for getting a little bit of reach. It activates bloodthirst effects too, I believe. And that's what vampires are also kind of loosely associated with bloodthirst effects. I don't think you have to do damage. I think it's just life loss if I'm remembering correctly. But there are some like of the new vampires, if I'm remembering correctly. What was the Midnight Hunt one? There was like a really good one from Midnight Hunt. It was black and red, and it was a vampire. AK Changelings. Where are you? I was thinking about like this. Like Florian triggers on the amount of life your opponent's lost this turn. So you can generate card advantage with Florian off that. There was Vampire Socialite. That was another really good one. If an opponent lost life this turn, you get to put +1/+1 counters on each vampire you control when it enters the battlefield, or they enter the battlefield with that as well too. So this is not like an insane activated ability or anything, but it's a great way to trigger those bloodthirst effects on your vampires. It's a great way of getting some extra reach, and also if there's any like life gain, life drain synergies in your deck as well, that triggers it too. So I think this is just like a really good card just overall. I like the design of it. It really is open-ended on what sort of vampire tribal deck you want to put her in. I think she's probably the worst in, like Edgar Markov, just because it's a 4-drop and you really want to keep a very tight low curve for that. But it's still an excellent choice in Edgar, and then she's even better in a Madness deck, in a Blood deck, for example. So I really like her. As part of as a commander, I feel like you could do a little bit better in terms of like which specific version of Vampire Tribal you want to be doing. Like if you want to go Madness, I think Anya Falconwrath, the original version, is just better at it. And if you want to go like Life Gain or Blood, there are better versions than that as well. But I think she's just like an excellent option for the 99. So I really like her design. I'm gonna put her as like either a B+ or an A-, but I really like her design, so I'm gonna put her as an A. Also just to note, folks, before people get mad at my ranking scheme, this is not gonna be a power level ranking. If you want a power ranking guide, you need to go to the CDH channel. And this is more like my personal hype list on how much I like these cards. So like, your version of a tier list is going to be very different than mine, obviously. It's very much a personal taste thing, so don't get too upset if I like put something as an A instead of a B or a D or whatever, even though your ranking scheme would be based on power level or some other thing. Like, I'm just doing a hype list. Inspiring Statue is so good with Anya. Yeah, that's going to be a recurring thing with blood tokens. Every single time we get to a good blood token card, you're going to see me referencing Inspiring Statuary many times, because they turn all the blood tokens into colorless ramp, which is like really good. Really good. There's a new Glasscast Heart in the Vampire Precon. Yeah, that one's also a super efficient way of making blood tokens off your vampires. That's going to be really good. Olivia should have married her instead, IMO. I think the main thing was, like, Olivia's marrying Edgar, it seems, entirely because of the power and prestige of uniting the vampire tribal. She doesn't actually care about Edgar. I would imagine after they got married, Edgar would like fall down the trip and break his neck or something. Some horrible accident, like like a week after they got married, So I don't think she plans to rule, be a co-ruler. But anyway, maybe she can marry Anya afterwards. She can unite all the vampire clans by just marrying the head of each family. Just every single one. Anyway. All right, we'll move on. Are you ranking as a commander or in the 99 or both? It's mostly like I'm looking at it as a commander first, but also as a 99. So it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I saw your Twitter post. You're thinking about updating your Vampire Madness. Thoughts on you'll stick with the original Anya or switch it? Honestly, I think they're all interchangeable. Like, you could do new Anya, you can do old Anya, you could even do Olivia mobilized for war, and you can literally swap between the two without really changing much in the 99. But I will say that the original Anya is the strongest. So if you want the most powerful version of Vampire Madness, you want Anya Falconwrath in the command zone. But if you want to switch it up at any given time, or you want to have more of a blood synergy, like you have a little bit of an artifact synergy in the deck, then the new Anya is really good. And if you have a lot of non-vampires in your deck that you want to get value out of in terms of like adding more vampire synergies, then Olivia Mobilized for War is the best. But I think Olivia is definitely the weakest of the three, but it really depends on the style that you want to build it. Back in the casket with you, Edgar? Yeah. Olivia's wedding vows in today's story mentioned that she would occasionally listen to Edgar's opinion before dismissing it. That sounds about right. Oh, that's a good marriage right there. Anyway, moving on. We got number 2. Donal, Herald of Wings. This is a 4-mana blue legendary human wizard. It's a 3/3, so I mean he's a beefy boy, not as beefy as Anya or anything, but you know he can handle his own. He can fight a bear and win. Whenever you cast a non-legendary creature with flying, you may copy it, except its copy is a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types. Do this only once each turn. So it's kind of like a limited version of a panharmonic. No, not a panharmonican. It's a limited version of like an Anointed Procession type thing, where you play a creature, you get a 1/1 version of it, and this really speaks to me to 2 things. First of all, it's decent in Spirit Tribal, because spirits are usually pretty small, and the copy of it is a spirit, which is nice, and it's just really good in any ETB creature, you know, like any blink deck. Like you know, you cast you don't even have to cast. You like evoke a Muldrifter for 3 mana. You make a 2/2 flying that draws 2 cards and then dies. But boom, 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 you already cast it, you know. So you get another Muldrifter. So for 3 mana, you draw 4, and you get a 2/2, or you get a 1/1 Spirit Elemental with flying, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, this card is pretty darn sick. It's only limited to once each turn. I kind of like that the Wizards of the Coast is focusing on this once each turn cap to kind of like restrict complete shenanigans. You know, like you can't immediately break the thing, which, you know what, I appreciate. It makes the card a lot weaker, obviously, because you can't really just pop off with this. But like, I'm personally so tired of like every single commander that comes out that's printed, and it's like, you know, if I untap with this, I win the game. So you better have a removal spell every single time I cast my commander, and you can't allow the commander to ever untap, or else you lose. Like that's not the level of commander that I really enjoy. And something like Donal is something that, like, yeah, it's a scary threat, but also I don't have to feel like, oh no, Donal's out. I guess I lose if I don't have a Source of Plowshares in my hand right now. So I appreciate the restriction. I know it makes it a little bit weaker, and I know that doesn't make everybody happy, but it makes me particularly happy. So anyway, about this card, about its effect, it's really good in Blink decks, like I said, Spirit decks obviously too, and it also has additional like token synergies as well. Like, for example, if you're running like Brutaclad, for example, Brutaclad is a blue commander that cares about tokens. So at the beginning of a combat on your turn, you make a token, and then you can choose a token you control, and then if you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. So if you make a cool creature version of a token, I'm not sure what it would be, but like, let's say it's like a Saphalid Constable or something. I don't know. Let's say you have like a bunch of like you have like a Wonder in the graveyard, so all your creatures have flying, and then you make an army of Saphalid Constables or something weird like that. I'm not sure. I'm just spitballing here, but that's like one way of getting use out of tokens in blue. But obviously, like, what is it? What was that new, like, it was in Strixhaven. It was the Quandrix one. It was a face commander. Oh yeah, just make 15 Consecrating Sphinxes. Yeah, that works. I don't remember their names, but they were Merfolk. They were Merfolk wizards. They were Simic, but they cared about making copies of things. I think it was like Adrix and Nev. That's the one. Yep, that's the one. Adrix and Nev. So if one or more tokens would be created under your control, you make twice that many tokens are created instead. I think Donal's like pretty darn sweet in that regard, you know? Like, you just play like a Sakura Tribe Elder, you make another Sakura Tribe Elder token, and then Adrix says, actually, no, you make 2 Sakura Tribe Elder tokens. Just like silly things like that. Risen Reef, you know? You just like cast a Risen Reef, you make one a copy of the Risen Reef, double the triggers, and then Adrix and Nev says, oh no, actually you make another Risen Reef. like it will get pretty crazy pretty fast. But I appreciate that like the cap. There's a cap there. As a commander, I think it's a little bit more limiting because you're in mono blue, so there's a lot less fun things you can do. I feel like Donal decks are probably all going to look the same, but like there's so many token decks out there that have access to blue, or ETB decks that have access to blue, that Donal has a lot of value in the 99, I think. That's more exciting for me. Yeah, it has to be flying. So Risen Reef doesn't work, but like the Muldrifter does work. Consecrated Sphinx does work. There has to be other good stuff as well, but it's not Sakura Tribe Elder. It's not Risen Reef and stuff. So it has to be something with flying. I got that one wrong. So it's a little bit restrictive. As a commander, probably not that exciting. I don't know. But I don't know. I like him. He's an A. I like the design a lot. Again, not a power ranking scale. If it was a power ranking, you'd probably go a little bit lower, but you can do some fun things. Spirit decks that don't fly. Spirit decks that don't fly? Don't most spirits fly, though? Create doesn't apply to tokens entering the battlefield from the stack. Oh, does this not work with Adrix either? Because it doesn't say create. Oh, maybe it doesn't work with that either. Oh, no. Well, I'm still going to put him as an A. Maybe if he doesn't work with a lot of things, maybe he goes down to B. But I still like him. All right. We'll move on for now. It'll work with Varen, though. Varen is whenever you cast a spell. Anywho, we'll move on. So we got Dorothy. I don't know if her name is Dorothea or Dorothy. I want to say Dorothy. So I'm going to call it Dorothy. Vengeful Victim. Blue and a white. So it's an Azorius legendary creature Spirits with flying. It's a 4/4 with flying, which is pretty huge for 2 mana, but we'll see why very shortly. 4/4 with flying, but when Dorothea or Dorothy attacks or blocks, you sacrifice it at end of combat. So it's kind of made to die. It's made to go into the graveyard ASAP, essentially, unless you have some way of stopping the end of combat step. Like you can put it like in a 4-color Obika deck or something like that to prevent the trigger to go off, or Sundial of the Infinite. But I don't know. I don't think you'd actually want to do that. You actually want Dorothea to be in the graveyard as quickly as possible. You probably don't even want to cast her on it, so you just want to like entomb her or something. Put her in the graveyard ASAP. Oh, she can crew anything by herself. That's actually kind of cool. But I think you really want to play her mostly for this backside, which is a cool little. So when she's in the graveyard, you can pay 3 mana to cast her for a disturb cost. She comes back as an aura attached to a creature you control. Or sorry, attached to a creature. And it says, whenever this creature attacks, create a 4/4 white spirit creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking. Sacrifice it at the end of combat. So this is kind of like a callback to 2 cards. Saint Traff. 2 cards did this before. So the first one is Geist of Saint Traff. This is like the original Innistrad. Really good card from original Innistrad, kind of a classic iconic card from the set. And this also had a very similar trigger. When it attacks, you create a 4/4 white angel token with flying that's tapped and attacking, and you exile it. And then there was I forget, I don't remember the name of it, but it was an aura from Shadows over Innistrad that literally did the same thing as well. And now finally we have the aura, but you can cast it from the graveyard. Invocation of Saint Traff, that's the one, yeah. Personally, I'm not really hyped about this. As a commander, there's not really that much to build around, obviously. But then as part of the 99, like you can put it in like an Azorius Aura deck, for example, right? Like you can put it in what's the Azorius one? There's like Bruna, Light of Alabaster. You could put it in Bruna, Light of Alabaster as just a way to get like 4 extra damage through every single turn for 3 mana. It's not the worst, you know? It's not the worst, but it's also, it just doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like the damage is significant enough that I super care about running it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't run Bruna, I'd run Daxos. But Daxos isn't really like the aura, it's not really an aura deck, it's just like I build it as an aura deck. I don't know. I don't think this is very good. Like, it is a significant amount of damage. 4 extra damage every single time you're attacking is pretty decent. But it's not enough for me to get super excited for it. And like, yeah, you could put it in an Azorius Aura deck, but even so, like, I wish it had like some utility as opposed to just extra damage. Or if it had extra damage, I wish it had more damage that I would be like super excited about. So yeah, I was thinking about putting it in my Niambi deck in the 99 because it's a legendary creature, but I ended up deciding against it. And I was thinking about like Azorius Auras, and it's fine there, but it's not like super exciting. So I don't know. I really want to like it because I like that it's legendary. I like that it's Azorius. I like that it's an aura, but it just doesn't do enough for me. I'm sorry, Dorothy fans. I'm gonna put you at a C. I love the concept. I just personally I can't get hyped for it. I just can't. I'm sorry. All right, we're gonna move on. This feels good. This feels good to talk about. This feels right. Edgar, Charmed Groom. So this is a Orzhov version of Edgar Markov, the old school Edgar Markov. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit more shriveled up. He's a little crotchety. He's a little grouchy, you know? He got a little hunch over from the age. He had a bad nappy nap, I guess. He's now a 4 mana, 4/4. Ooh, nice start, I guess, so far. Legendary Vampire Noble. Other vampires get +1/+1. Very, very medium. Super medium. And then when he dies, so no other benefit. That's it. That's all his benefit gives for 4 mana. But then when he dies, he takes a nappy nap. He goes into his coffin. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 1/1 white and black vampire creature token with lifelink and put a bloodline counter on Edgar's Markov. So every single turn on your upkeep, you get a token. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty decent. And then if there are 3 more bloodline counters on it, so after 3 turns, you get 3 tokens over time. And then eventually you get to get back Edgar Charmed Groom. This card is super medium. I can't get super excited for it because like the front side, 4 mana, you give it a little anthem effect, not super high impact. It's good, it's fine, not super high impact though. And then when he dies, it's better than him just being gone forever. Obviously, you get a couple tokens, and then eventually you get back to anthem side. I don't think this is a very good card, but also, oh god, do I feel happy to see a very mediocre Edgar card. So like one of my most hated cards in Commander of all time has to be Edgar Markov, the original, the Mardu vampire tribal leader. He was the leader of the Commander 2017 Commander decks. He has Eminence, you know, a mechanic that I am not a fan of. I feel like if you can get value out of your commander without ever allowing your opponents to interact with it, I feel like that's just a bad design space and should be a bar that should not be, or a line that should not usually be crossed. So I wasn't a fan of that off the bat, but then also the fact that not only do I not like Eminence as a concept, but also the card is like absurdly bust. So like not only is it like an Eminence effect, which I mean there could be bad Eminence effects obviously. This is like the opposite of bad though. It's very good. It's busted even. Whenever you cast a vampire spell, you just get a free vampire token. And while it doesn't sound that crazy when you say it out loud, in practice, most people know and have seen Edgar Markov, have seen how crazy the deck can get. the fact that he's the best vampire tribal leader by like leaps and bounds of everything, is one thing. But then the other thing is that he's also Mardu, so he has access to every single color. So literally why would he, like, you have to decide, why do I not want to run Edgar Markov as my commander? Because literally, like, you have access to the most colors, you have access to all colors for vampire tribal. Like, if this was a mono black commander, like, and the rest of the text remained the exact same, then yeah, he'd be very strong, but you'd actually have to give something up to run him as your commander. You can still make a really sweet mono black vampire deck, and the deck would be really strong with Edgar Markov, but it wouldn't be as strong, but it'd still be very strong. But you still have to be like, hey, do I want to run the best vampire commander, or do I want to have access to more colors so I have, you know, a more well-rounded vampire deck? This one removes such questions in terms of optimization or just deck building finesse. Like, no, it's Mardu. He plays all of them. If you do anything else, you're handicapping yourself essentially. And I just don't like that design. I don't like the strictly best version that no other vampire tribal can compare. And then I don't know. I don't like it. And then the question is, like, how do you get people hyped for a new vampire commander? Because now Edgar Markov exists. Can you really get people hyped for other vampire commanders? I think the answer is actually going to be no. Like, some people are going to be really excited about, you know, new Anya. Some people are going to be really excited about new Olivia. Some people are going to be excited about more Strifen people. But by looking at the price of the Commander's 2017 Edgar Markov, over $100 now and climbing, I'm guessing that the vast majority of people are going to look at all the new cards and be like, well, what do I get to put into my Edgar Markov deck? As opposed to being like, oh, there's a new spin on a Vampire Commander. No. There is Edgar Markov, and you put the cards into Edgar Markov decks, which I think is just like, it's just, first of all, it shoots Wizards of the Coast in the foot, because how do you get people hyped for a product with, like, you know, a vampire leader if it's not Edgar? You know, I guess the plan here is to reprint Edgar to death. But also, it's just, like, less exciting because, you know, there's Vampire Tribal is one of the biggest tribes in the entire in the history of Magic the Gathering. It's one of the most popular tribes. It's one of the biggest tribes. It's so annoying that, like, every single time you see a Vampire Tribal deck, there could be so many different variations, but they're usually just Edgar Markov. So that's basically it. I don't like Edgar Markov. So when I see crotchety, old, withered up, shriveled up Edgar Charmed Groom, who's basically a thrall to Olivia in the story, you know, he's a loser, and he has a very medium card, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel real good, all right? And I'm sorry, Edgar Markov fans, because I just spent like 10 minutes just trashing on how much I don't like Edgar Markov. Obviously, like, if you play Edgar Markov and you like Edgar Markov, I'm not gonna talk smack to you in the game. I'm not gonna make you feel bad about your choices. You like what you like, and this is just my personal gripes. I would never say, you know, you should not enjoy whatever you enjoy. But for me personally, not a fan of the design of the original one. I'm very happy to see a medium one. That's just my take on it. Everybody has their own opinions. I know some people are upset that this one isn't that good or isn't Mardu or whatever. But I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with it. Tomorrow likes Eminence because of the tribal. Well, I don't think the tribal is a good design, but I'm still going to take advantage of it with my tribal deck. That's like the silver lining for me, is like, I don't like Eminence as a design, but I also think like some Eminence decks are still fine. Like, for example, Erebos. Erebos is a scary commander. It is. But I also think it's a much more fair commander. Like, when I play against Erebos, I'm not like, oh my god, Erebos just so busted. Erebos is very strong, but also it just does not have the same level of craziness for me. I think Eminence is a mistake regardless, but there are definitely degrees on Eminence decks, if you know what I mean, right? Not all Eminence cards are made equally. Anyway, I'm just glad they didn't print anything more busted than to top old Edgar Markov. I think that would be very scary. I was a little bit scared about it because, like, if I was thinking as Wizards of the Coast, it's like, okay, how do we generate hype for a new commander, vampire commander? You know, like, how do we get people to be like, oh, that's it, I'm going to build XYZ deck instead of Edgar Markov? And the answer is, the only way you could do it is you have to make a stronger version of him, right? You have to, or else people are not going. They're not like there is a correlation between how powerful, like how easily powerful, like easily analyzed powerful a card is, and how popular it is going to be. Like there's clearly a reason why certain commanders are more popular than others. Like this is pretty simple. So. How do you get people to switch over to it? I'm glad they decided not to, you know? Like, they have cool new vampire legendaries. Some people will enjoy it and build vampire decks around that. They're going to be the minority. But, you know, if I was Wizards of the Coast, what I would do is I would just print a lot of very fancy versions of Edgar Markov. I'd do Secret Lair Edgar Markov. I do, well, just a lot of Secret Lair Edgar Markov, I guess. I think that's the best way of doing it. Like, just... Like you printed the best vampire commander. Leave it at that. Don't try to top yourself. Just capitalize by making easy money. Secret Lair Edgar Markov for days. Do like 5 of them. I don't know. That's my hot take. Anyway, Edgar Markov. Pooh. Well, actually no. He's definitely a D. I don't actually like him, but maybe he needs like an extra tier. Can I do an extra tier? No. Add row below. There we go. Nap tier. All right, so that was my spiel on Edgar Markov. That took a while. That took a while. All right, we'll move on. Okay, Aruth, Tormented Prophet. This is a powerful one. This is a very strong one. This is an Izzet human wizard. 3 mana. Izzet human wizard 2/4, so decent blocker, I guess. But it's all about her replacement effect. So if you would draw a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library instead. You may play those cards this turn. So what essentially Aruth does is she takes all of your card draw, including the first one you draw, like on your draw phase, like the one you normally draw on your draw phase, and turns all of that into impulse draw. And you can only play it on your turn, but it essentially doubles the amount of card advantage you're getting in the game when Aruth is on the battlefield. So let's say like you cast Divination, instead of drawing 2 cards, you're exiling the top 4 cards of your library. If you cast Brainstorm, instead of drawing 3 cards and putting 2 back, you draw 6 cards and put 2 back. Or, I mean, if you have 0 cards in your hand, you can draw 6 cards, or impulse draw 6 cards, and put 0 back, and you just impulse through 6 cards, which is great. It's great. So yeah, this is basically Storm. It's a Storm commander because, generally speaking, if you jam this into an Izzet control deck, for example, full of like, you know, counter magic and board wipes and incremental draw and stuff like that, it's not going to mesh very well because generally speaking, you don't want to cast your counter spells and stuff, your answers immediately on the same turn. You need to hold on to them. So this would not work very well in a lot of Izzet control style decks, but she's very good if you don't really care about holding on to your cards. You just want to draw as many cards as possible and play them as quickly as possible. So Aruth is fantastic for that style of play. So there's two main archetypes I see Aruth being the leader of and being part of the 99 of. The first one is Storm, obviously. Storm doesn't really care about casting a bunch of spells over the span of many turns. Storm just wants to set up one turn where they can draw all the cards they need, cast the amount of spells they need, hit their finisher, win the game. So I covered this recently. I covered Izzet Storm recently with Vadrik Astral Archmage, which came out in the last set, actually. And this is also an Izzet Storm commander, which gives us a significant mana discount on your instant and sorcery spells. So what you do is you just get Vadrik's power to be basically 3. You just need it to be 3 or higher. And then you just pop off. You cast a bunch of spells, generate a bunch of rituals, cast a storm finisher. It could be like Aetherflux Reservoir. It could be pretty much anything. It could be Aetherflux Reservoir. It could be like Grape Shot. It could be any storm finisher to win the game. And Aruth does fits the exact same thing. I would say Aruth is worse as a commander though, just because for storm decks, storms. I think storm's a major pain point. The cap, or I don't even know, the bottleneck for storm going off is really the mana. The card draw, doubling all your card draw is obviously amazing. But I think I would prefer Vadrik or Mizzix or whatever as my leader for a storm deck, just because I found personally that that it's really the mana that really hinders you from popping off and winning, as opposed to the amount of cards you're drawing. Because I think if you have enough mana, you can draw enough cards. Whereas if you draw enough cards but you don't have the mana to cast them all, you're in a worse position. So I think between the two, they're both good options, but I think Vadrik's better. Would I want Aruth in the 99? Maybe. I'm not sure. But I think she's pretty decent there. She's also really decent in not a storm deck, but like something that like just tries to punch people in the face before two. In 1 turn 2, EK plays. Yeah, you mentioned Shuyan. Very similar to Shuyan is Adeliz, the Cinder Wind, but both of them are good options of this, where you don't really want to play a longer game. You just kind of want to set up a turn where you cast a bunch of spells. You have a bunch of wizards on the battlefield. You cast a bunch of spells. You give them essentially prowess, well, the spell slinger version of prowess. Pump up your team, and go ham and win the game. Aruth is a human wizard. So she fits really nicely in the Adeliz version of the deck too. I would put her in the 99 here, and I'd be very happy about that. And similar thing with like Shuyan and whatnot. Certain versions of Shuyan would work as well too. I've done a budget commander on Shuyan. I've done a budget commander on Vadrik. Budget CEDH on Vadrik, which was controversial because people were like, you can't do a $25 CEDH thing. But I disagree. Anyway, I think Aruth is not as good as the commander, but as a 99, she's very exciting. I also think she's kind of cool with potentially like a stacks element. Like you throw Aruth on the battlefield, and then you have like, say, what's it called, Sire of Insanity. Maybe I'm wrong, but like something like this would be kind of funny, where you're not putting cards in your hand anyway. If you have Aruth on the battlefield, you're exiling them instead. So this could be kind of funny. I don't know. Maybe. Something like that. I don't know if Siren Insane is the best option for that, but something like that could be really funny. I like Aruth. I think she's a really strong card, but not necessarily super exciting in the command zone. Probably more exciting in the 99. I'll put her as a B. Boop boop boop. All right, we got five down. 5 down's pretty decent so far, I think. Aruth is kind of hilarious against Narset Wheel. Yeah, Aruth does I think, like, does Rule of Law work? For example, no, not Rule of Law. Spirit of the Labyrinth. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not sure how Aruth works with Spirit of the Labyrinth, because Aruth's ability is a replacement effect, and its Spirit of the Labyrinth says you can't draw them more than one card. Could Aruth get around Spirit of the Labyrinth? I'm pretty sure. Oh, it stops Aruth? Yeah, I figured. Because Aruth requires you to draw a card for her replacement effect to work, and this one prevents you from drawing cards, so yeah. There's no draw to replace. Yeah. That's a shame. Whatever. I'll find some salty combo with it. I'll find some salty combo. Thanks, Neotic, for the clarification. Fun. Siren Insanity, pick one. I think Siren Insanity is a fun card. I don't know. Maybe we have different definitions of fun. All right. We'll move on. We'll talk about Gerolf. Visionary Stitcher. This is the latest iteration of Gerolf. I think we've seen Gerolf on his own card one time before, and then we've seen one of him in Gisela, on the sharing a card together. So this is the third iteration of Gerolf, I'll say. This is a 3-mana blue human wizard, a 1/4. So it has the turtle, the tortoise? Turtle? I don't know. I need more coffee. It has turtle stats, is what I'm trying to say. All right, it's a 1/4. And comes with 2 abilities. Zombies you control have flying. That's really good in a zombie tribal deck. And you can pay 1 blue and tap it and sacrifice a non-token creature to make an X blue zombie creature token, where X is a sacrificed creature's toughness. Wait, oh, it's Gisa. Yeah, Gisela is an angel. Oops-a-daisy. Whoops-a-daisy. Anyway, so Gerolf is kind of interesting. I don't really like him in zombie tribal decks, despite, he seems like he would be made for a zombie tribal list, where he gives all your zombies flying. That's great. And he makes zombie tokens, and he's a sack outlet. I think all of those things are good, but I kind of feel like zombie tribal has such a huge card pool and so many good cards that finding a spot for Gerolf, like, he's a fine card. If you have a copy of Gerolf that you have laying around and you need to fill out a zombie tribal deck, I would shove him in there. I wouldn't hesitate about that. Or if you just want to have, Gisa and Gerolf, these cool lore characters in your zombie deck, this is an excellent choice as well. But I think, like, when I'm thinking about, like, the entire card pool, if you're surveying the entire card pool and being like, which ones will I select for my zombie tribal deck, I feel like there's simply better options these days. I think the biggest strike against him is that he is not a zombie himself, so he doesn't inherently work with a lot of the zombies flying. He doesn't inherently work with a lot of the zombie tribal synergy cards that you'll have in your deck. Like, for example, if you have a mass reanimation spell like Zombie Apocalypse, where it returns all zombies you control from the graveyard to the battlefield, it won't bring back Gerolf. And, if you have Zombie Lords that give your creatures +1/+1, it won't affect Gerolf, and so on and so forth. If you want to give your zombies flying, honestly, I think the best one is Wonder. But if you want a zombie that gives your creatures flying, I think Hordewing Scab is just kind of better. It's 5 mana instead of 3, so that is a significant difference. But again, you could like play Hordewing Scab for 0 mana with Rooftop Storm. It has flying itself, and then it has another relevant ability. Whenever one or more zombies you control deal combat damage to one or more of your opponents, you draw cards equal to the number of opponents out this way, and then if you do, you discard that many cards. Like, I would probably run this over Gerolf, but the thing here is that the sack ability is also good for zombie tribal. Zombies like sacrificing them, but if I really wanted a non-zombie creature that is a sack outlet that makes zombie creatures, I'd actually probably run Gisa instead, Ghoul Caller Gisa, because zombie tribal generally likes going wide instead of go wide instead of go tall. So if I actually really wanted to have that sort of ability, I'd probably just run Ghoul Caller Gisa, because she makes a huge army. She's not a zombie herself, which is a strike against her, just like with Gerolf, but I think it fits a little bit better. Eternal Skylord also gives flying to zombie tokens. Yeah, that's also I think a better call. What I'm excited for Gerolf, though, I would be more excited for him in archetypes that don't have as enormous of a card pool as zombie tribal. Just because, like, there's like thousands of good zombie cards for zombie tribal that it's really hard for Gerolf to really stand out in that archetype. But there are other archetypes that are a little bit smaller that he can have a little bit more higher impact with. And one of them is like going for like big butts tribal. Like, for example, if you're building a big butts tribal deck under Gerolf, instead of focusing on the fact that like you can puff up zombies and you can go zombie tribal, focus on creatures with high toughness. So you can like sacrifice Cherix, for example, and you'll make a 17/17 zombie token, and that could be super fun. If there's any ways in blue to copy tokens, that could be really fun as well. It could also. I was gonna say Brutaclad. I'm not sure if Brutaclad would be the deck for it, but I think that might be a more interesting way of taking Garelf, is going for like big butts tribal or a certain token deck. If there's any way of doubling tokens, that could be super fun. Maybe we mentioned Adrix before, Adrix and Nev, but like maybe a version of Adrix and Nev, big butt token tribal could be really funny. Could be a fun way of taking it. So I think that's where he's really best at. I don't think he's actually that great in zombie tribal. He's fine, but he's like, yeah, he's fine. It's all right. So I'm gonna put him as a B. I mean, he tries. All right. Essex could be fun. Essex could be fun. Yeah. All right. We got a legendary frog. So it's already a frog, so it already gets at least, it's above a D because it's a frog. I love legendary frogs. That's hilarious. Gronk the Omnivore is a 4-drop. It's 2, a green, and a blue, so it's a Simic for a 3/3 legendary frog. Awesome. Whenever a frog you control attacks, mill 3 cards. So it's Gronk, but also other creatures. I don't know how many decks that will feature Gronk will have other frogs, but I mean, this is already a wonderful start to Frog Tribal. Then the other effect is whenever a permanent card is put into your graveyard from a library, exile it with a croak counter on it. So again, it has croak counters. That's amazing. It's clearly not a D. It has to be a C+ at this point. I don't even know what the rest of the text says. But then the final part says, you may play lands and cast spells from among cards you exile with croak counters on them. So essentially, as long as Gronk is on the battlefield, everything that is going into your graveyard, everything that you mill, that you self-mill, put from your library into your graveyard, you will always have access to. Like if Gronk dies, you won't be able to cast it. But when you recast Gronk, when Gronk is on the battlefield, they will have croak counters. Anything you have with croak counters will be castable. So this is like an insane card advantage for a self-mill style of deck. Super fun. I don't know if there's enough frogs. We could check actually how many frogs there are in Simic. But maybe there's enough. Let's see here. 23 frogs. Yeah, this is a deck, friends. This is a deck. This is definitely something. Yeah. Yeah, so it could be Frog Tribal. That's really exciting to me. That won't be a good deck, but I'm sure Richard will beat us all with it. Yeah, Changelings also work with Gronk too. So all Changelings, all Changeling creatures will mill. Obviously, you can do like, powerful things with Gronk. Like if you go Hermit Druid, if you have a deck with 0 basic lands in your library, you can activate Hermit Druid to essentially just put all cards in your library into your graveyard immediately. If Gronk is on the battlefield, then you get to exile. When you mill all of them, you get to exile them with a croak counter, so you get to play them at any given time. And then as long as you have Thassa's Oracle, you win the game. That's fine. That's all right. I mean, winning with Thassa's Oracle is kind of like a meme at this point, but it is a cool thing you can do with Gronk, I suppose. I think Frog Tribal is the most exciting thing for me personally, but also just like self-mill is just kind of cool. Maybe you put it in Sidisi. I don't know if it's good enough for Sidisi, but Sidisi is a really good self-mill commander in Sultai colors. So maybe you put Gronk in Sidisi in part of the 99 as well. That might be worth it. It's got a lot of card advantage. So that's fun. It's a fun card. Hopefully Frog Tribal is a thing. Is it good? I don't know. I'm sure there definitely can be powerful uses of this card. You know, like the Thassa's Oracle thing. Maybe there's other stuff that you can do with it that's also really powerful, but I like Frog Tribal. I don't know. I think this is an A in terms of the flavor, honestly. I would like to do Frog Tribal with it, honestly. That's about it. Anyway, moving on. All right. Helena and Alina partners. So we met Helena and Alina in one of the Innistrad stories from Shadows over Innistrad. They were like, I think they're the first canonically lesbian couple in Magic the Gathering, which is really cool. And also, we got to see them more recently, 2 years ago, in Commander Legends as separate cards that also had partner, but they weren't partnered together necessarily. I mean, you should partner them together, obviously, you monster. But they were separate cards that could partner with any other partners. I think there were no stipulations there. The first two versions, Commander Legends wasn't 2 years ago. When was Commander Legends? Was it last year? I think it was last year, wasn't it? Oh no, time has no meaning anymore. Yeah, they were roommates, and they're roommates. So yeah, Helena and Alina are roommates. They finally show up together on the same card. The first two versions of them were kind of interesting, but I think this one's probably the best one. I'm not sure. This one's definitely a good one. Commander Legends was less than a year ago. I guess. Time has no meaning during the pandemic, though, all right? I stand by it. 2 years ago, 1 year ago. What's the difference? Anyway, so this version is a 4-mana Gruul Friends, 2 red and a green for 2/3. So kind of small. Starting off kind of small, but there's a reason for that. Legendary creature, Human Ranger, first strike and reach. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is Helena and Alina's power. That creature gains haste until end of turn. This card reminds me very much of another commander that I love. I love to bits, and it was a deck that I owned a copy of until like 2 years ago. Zenith God Revels. This is a super fun deck. I always think about, like, do I want to reassemble this deck because it's such a fun card. It's basically Gruul Stompy. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. So the idea is just play Gruul Stompy. You play a bunch of big creatures. You double their power and toughness. Or you double their power at the very least. You double their power and toughness, basically. And you give them haste and you send them on their way. And then bada bing, bada boom, you kill people with huge haste and damage. Helena and Alina, very similar. But there's a major difference. It gives them a big power boost. It gives them haste, sends them on their way. But there's a major difference. First, the power boost is going to be, generally speaking, a lot smaller because you're giving counters equal to Helena and Alina's power, which starts off as 2. Instead of just doubling the creature's power and toughness itself. So it's kind of like the opposite situation where you're in Xenagos, you're incentivized to play really big creatures to double their power. In Helena and Alina, the power and toughness of the original creature, the creature you want to buff, is not actually that relevant. The relevant part is Helena and Alina's power. So what you're focusing on to buff is going to be different here. In this deck, led by Helena and Alina, you actually want to spend a lot of ways to pump up Helena and Alina so that the combat trigger is going to be more and more potent. And the other big difference here is that Zenith God Revels is +X until end of turn, whereas this actually puts counters on the creature, which sticks around permanently. So it's a very different take on Gruul Stompy, where Xenagos, you're just running, big stompy creatures, and Helena and Alina, you're pumping Helena and Alina to get that extra value off your creatures. It's different. It's fun. Both are fun. But just how you go about doing it is going to be a little bit different. I would say overall, I think Xenagos is still stronger. 2 reasons why. First of all, Xenagos is indestructible, and he's more often than not even going to be a creature. So the ways of interacting with Xenagos on the battlefield when it's just a legendary indestructible enchantment are kind of minimal. Whereas Halana and Alina don't have any inherent protection from removal. They cost 1 less mana, but I think overall, I think Xenagos is going to stick on the battlefield a lot more efficiently than Halana and Alina. However, in decks that care about +1/+1 counters, Halana and Alina is going to be really interesting. I have, for example, a kicker deck that I'm completely brain farting on the name of it. Where are you? Halar. There we go. We got Halar. And why can't I find the name? There we go. Halar the Fire Fletcher. So Halar the Fire Fletcher, for example, is going to love this. This is another Gruul commander. 3/3 of trample. Whenever you cast a spell, if that spell was kicked, put a +1/+1 counter on Halar, the Fire Fletcher, and then Halar deals damage equals the number of +1/+1 counters on it to each opponent. So Halar loves counters. Counters are a huge currency in the deck. I think Halana and Alina is going to be a fantastic inclusion in the 99 of my Halar deck, and I'm going to pick up a copy specifically for that. Also, as a commander, it's very interesting. It plays around with +1/+1 counters. It plays around with Stompy. It's just a different take on the whole Gruul Stompy. And I think it's going to be most interesting if there are any really good Gruul creatures that have scaling effects based on how much damage they deal. So like if a creature does makes treasure tokens equal to the number of damage it deals, like old Gnawbone, I think works like that. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player to create that many treasure tokens, so stuff like that's scalable like this could be really, really sweet. This is also really, really sweet in Xenagos though, but I mean, yeah, it's a good card. I'm gonna put Halana and Alina as an A. I'm personally going to be putting I think Halar is non-binary in the lore. And Halana and Alina, I think I'm going to personally be picking up a copy of it to put in the 99 of my Halar deck, and I think it's going to lead to some really cool decks that are a little bit different than Xenagod. Like Xenagod, but different. That's what I'm going to call it. Xenagod, but different. All right. Whew. We are getting through there, folks. We're getting through there. All right. Henrika Domnathi is a mono black legendary creature vampire. It's a 4-drop, 2 and black for a 1/3 with flying. So the stats are kind of meh at the beginning. But she has a really cool combat trigger that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one that hasn't been chosen. So the first option is each player sacrifices a creature, or you draw a card and lose 1 life, or you transform Henrika Domnathi. So the very first turn, you cast her on your pre-combat main phase. When you go to combat, you can immediately transform her over to this side, but you don't have to. You can get more value out of the beginning side if it's more suitable to you, where you can make everybody sacrifice a creature, you can draw a card to lose 1 life, or you can just turn her over immediately to Henrika Infernal Seer, which is basically a mythic vampire Knothawk. It's a 3/4 with flying, death touch, and lifelink. And she has an activated ability that says each creature you control with flying, death touch, and or lifelink gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So, what do we do with her? As a commander, I'm not really sure. I don't think I personally am not super excited about building a deck around her. But she might have some cool implications in the 99. I like the flexibility here, where you could make everybody sacrifice a creature. You could just draw a card, or you could just swap. You could flip her if you want that instead. I also like the idea of vampires drinking demon blood. That's just like, it's like, why haven't they done that before? That's like a cool flavor idea. I don't know. I think that's pretty neat. I would have been more excited though if she like turned more demonic though when she was drinking demon blood. Though I guess maybe, I don't know. Don't they drink angel blood? So maybe they go more angelic. So maybe that doesn't really affect it. But whatever. I think like the only deck that I'm thinking about her off the bat is like maybe Cathril Aspect Warper, because she does come with Flying, Death Touch, and Lifelink. So that's 3, you know? She'd still be less useful than Vampire Nighthawk, but it's something. I don't know. I'm not really too hype on Henrika, because she's a 4-drop. She's too expensive for Edgar Markov decks usually. Though she does have some flexibility here and there. She doesn't really work with like madness or anything. Having 3 keywords is cute. I don't know. OG, Edgar. Me bolt here and say she goes in Edgar Markov. She's fine in Edgar Markov, but I wouldn't be excited about it. Brokos can mutate on it if you go non-infect. Yeah, but she's just a Vampire Nighthawk. I don't know. She's fine. Personally, I don't know. I'm gonna put her in a C. She's not like, ew, gross, get it away from me, bad D, but it's just like, I don't think I'm gonna play her. I can see her in Turgrid. Yeah, I don't see Turgrid though. Turgrid's a blind spot for me. All right. We'll move on. There's enough cool stuff that I can talk about. So next up, we got the 2-drop blue looter, which is also exciting. This is Jacob Hawkin. Jacob Hawkin Inspector. So this is like, what was it? It's supposed to be a reference to what? Jonathan Harker, I think. He's like an investigator type character. He's not Sherlock Holmesy, because we already have Eloise, and that's more Sherlock Holmes. He doesn't really do anything with like clues or investigating, but he's kind of like that. He's an inspector. That's adjacent. That's pretty decent. So I like the flavor there. This is a 2-mana blue legendary creature human advisor. It's a 0/2, and you can tap it to draw a card, then exile a card from your hand face down. You may look at the card for as long as it remains exiled, and you can pay. Then you can also pay 6, and if you do, you transform Jacob to the backside, which is an enchantment. This says Hawkins. Why is it so hard for me to say that word? Hawkins Insight? I think that's correct. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. You may look at that card for as long as it remains exiled. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land or cast a spell from the cards exiled with this permanent without paying its mana cost. So without paying its mana cost is kind of like the big payoff here. So the front side is like, I would say it's a bad looter, because the difference between like Baby Jays or Merfolk Looter or whatever is usually these cards are, they're 2 mana, they tap, they draw a card, discard a card. And those are generally a lot better because a discarded card is not gone forever. In fact, it's usually a benefit in the decks that want to run those. It's a benefit to discard them and put them in the graveyard, because then you're setting up reanimation or recursion or all that sort of stuff. Whereas if you have Jacob, you draw a card and then you exile a card. The problem is if Jacob dies, that card's gone. That card is gone forever. So that's a little bit, I don't know. That's not great. But the upside here is that if you do pay 6 mana, so an additional steep cost of 6 mana, the cards that are exiled, you still have access to them as long as Jacob's on the this permanent's on the battlefield. So you loot a little bit with Jacob, you exile a bunch of cards, you pay 6 mana, you flip it over to an enchantment. Enchantments are harder to remove in Commander, and then you have this little card advantage engine, and you're going to cast those spells for free. Without paying its mana cost, which is good. It's a nice little combination. It is a little bit fragile, I think, in Commander, just because I'm kind of terrified of of just losing Jacob or losing the enchantment before you get the value out of the exiled cards. It is a little bit risque, but also at the very least, like if you're just card filtering, it's not the worst. As long as you're not like exiling your combo pieces or whatever, losing exiled cards forever is not the end of the world for a lot of the cards that you exile at least. Like if you're mana flooded and you exile a bunch of extra lands, who cares really, right? So it's not the worst, but I think I like Baby Jace a little bit more. I also like Baby Jace more because you don't have to pay 6 mana to flip him. This one requires that 6 mana for it to be really good. So I don't know. A mono blue Eldrazi, like yeah, like I think there is something you could do with Jacob. Like if you play like a Kozilek, like if you use Jacob and you exile, like you loot away a Kozilek or something like that, you flip it over to the enchantment side, and then either on the top of your library there's an Eldrazi Titan, or something that you exiled beforehand is an Eldrazi Titan. You cast it, you have some fun with that. So there is cool things you can do with it, and it's also a really cool card. Like I like the idea of an inspector, and then he finds like some secret dark truth. You know, it's cool. It's a cool card. I don't know how much I'd be playing it personally, but I like that it exists, you know? I might put it in Niambi. It doesn't stack up your graveyard or anything, but it does let you cheat out really big creatures, which is what my Niambi deck is all about. So I can see him in the 99 or as the commander of like a weird Eldrazi, like mono blue Eldrazi or something like that. That could be really fun. I don't know. I'll put him as an A. I know the rating system has been pretty lopsided so far, but it is what it is. All right, moving on. How many more do we have? Jesus. All right, we're speeding it up. We're speeding it up. Flip it. Just flip it with Moon Mist. Does that work? Does flipping it with Moon Mist work? Please say yes. Transform all. It does. Oh, that's spicy. I don't know how many decks will run Moon Mist and Jacob in the same deck, but that's kind of funny. It is a human. Yeah. That's a cute little tech. I don't know what deck would run it, but that is cute. I like that. I think Tovolar works too, right? Does it not? Transfer. Oh no, human werewolves. Dang it! Blast the Tovolar. We'd have to infect Jacob with lycanthropy first. Arcane adaptation or something. Anyway, the next command we're going to be talking about is from the Crimson Vow Commander set, which, by the way, I have precon upgrades coming out very soon. The first one comes out tomorrow, and then the second one I think comes out Sunday. I think that's the plan. But if you want like a full upgrade guide, then check those out again on the website and on this channel. So Camber. So this is a partner pair. It's Camber the Plunderer and Loreen the Diversion. Loreen? I don't know how to say her name. Loreen. Loreen the Diversion. So they're a partner pair. They go together. The first one, Camber the Plunderer, is a 4-mana black 3/4 legendary creature vampire rogue that partners with Loreen, and it has lifelink. So pretty these stats already. And then it says, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain life, you gain 1 life, and create a blood token. And as Scryfall says, the preview image is actually incorrect. So it says here, the preview image says, whenever a creature dies, you gain 1 life and create a blood token. Not just whenever a creature your opponent controls. So obviously, not as strong. Not as strong in the errata version. Here's the one that we're going to be seeing mostly. So yeah, it's not as strong as the original or as the preview version, And I know a lot of people are bummed out with it, but honestly, I still think the card is fine. It's just not busted anymore. Like, I don't know. I think if it was triggering off all creatures you control, I would have wanted to see a triggers once per turn limit, or else you just kind of like go off with like, I don't know, you're just gaining you gain like an arbitrary amount of life and blood tokens off just doing, basic aristocrat things. So I don't know. I know this is very divisive. Like Seth, for example, thinks this card is unplayable now that the wording is different than the preview. And I know a lot of like that's the sentiment of a lot of people. I still think the card is better off not triggering on your own creatures. Like it's obviously a lot weaker, but I just don't want to see like auto staples being thrown in willy-nilly for archetypes that don't need more auto staples. Like, I don't know, if this was triggering off something that was actually difficult to do, that wasn't just killing your own creatures, which is like one of the most popular archetypes in the entire format, maybe I'd be more on board with it. But as it is, I'm kind of happy it's not triggering off your creatures. Anywho, it says whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 1 life and you create a blood token. So it does involve, it does want your opponents to die. It wants your opponents to have creatures, and it wants your opponents to die, and it rewards you by gaining a little bit of life and making some blood tokens. Not the craziest effect, but there are some cool things that you can do, like giving your opponents free creatures that will eventually die, like Forbidden Orchid. Then the other side is kind of like the main way that you're going to be getting people to have their creatures die, and that's Loreen the Diversion. This is a 3-mana red creature. It's a human rogue, 3/3, and it has first strike, and it has an activated ability that says 2, sacrifice an artifact or creature. So if you're with Camber, you're probably going to be sacrificing that blood token that he's making, and it goads target creature. Now the main thing with goad is not only does it get a lot of heat off your back, but it's a great way to actually get your opponent's creatures to die. Like, let's say your opponent has a Oracle of Moldiah or whatever, just like some random utility creature that isn't so big, but is a threat that you would like to get rid of. You goad the Oracle of Moldiah. It's a 2/2. It's a bear. It can't really, it doesn't beat most things in the format. And you goad it. And then where is the Oracle of Moldiah going to be going off to? If they attack you, you have a 3/3 of first strike. You can kill it yourself. Odds are, if everybody else, if every opponent has at least a 3/3 or more, then that Oracle of Moldiah is dead. It has to attack unless the opponent's controller has a way of tapping it or preventing it from attacking. That creature is dead. So that's the whole idea behind Camber and Loreen, the 1/2 punch. Loreen goads creatures to their death, and then Camber makes you a blood token and gains you 1 life, and then you use that blood token, sacrificing it to goad another creature, and so on. And if they're goaded, they aren't attacking. Yes, that's actually an important point. Goaded creatures can't attack you, so they can't swing at you anyway. But if your opponents have blockers, they're going to block it, and they're going to die, and it's a great way of basically being indirect removal. But at the very least, even if they're not going to be dying, even if you're not picking off big creatures, if your opponents have like a big Voltron commander or something like that, and you goad it, well, that goaded commander is no longer your issue, right? It's swinging at somebody else. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. Also, yes, a pink hair on Innistrad. So this is a Rebel AI on Innistrad, confirmed. She has hacked the Matrix, and she has imported herself on Innistrad, confirmed. So that's also cool. I don't know. Are these partners like insanely powerful? No. But I also would have preferred them not being with Camber's older text. I know that I'm probably a minority there, but that's my opinion on things. I think it's still pretty good. Instead of running them as commanders, I personally am more excited to try them out in Cardor Doomscourge. So Cardor is my personal favorite version of Goad in Commander these days. When it enters the battlefield, it basically does Super Goad. It forces all your opponent's creatures to attack and attack somebody else. And, whenever an attacking creature dies, you gain opponents lose 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it's very much like you goad your opponent's creatures to fight to the death. When they die, you get to drain them a little bit more. It's a little bit better than Goad, actually, because you only, when you goad, you goad creatures that are already on the battlefield. But this one is like Super Goad, because even creatures your opponents play that's on their turn, if they have haste, they're still attacking. So it's pretty cool. Tomer, how do you build this deck though? So yeah, that's how I would build it. Camber and Loreen, I would put them in Carador Doomscourge, because I love the goad aspect of Loreen. I love the blood token aspect of Camber, and they're all basically the same deck essentially. If I was playing Camber and Loreen as my commanders, I would play a Reanimator Goad deck. Because the blood tokens you can use to discard reanimation targets. You're in Rakdos, so you have plenty of reanimation spells. So you discard your big, heavy bombs with your blood tokens. You reanimate them, or you sacrifice the creatures and reanimate them later, or you sacrifice the blood tokens to goad the creatures, and you build them like Carador. So if you're interested in Camber and Loreen, I would look at Cardor lists, because they're going to be very similar. What about the one Beholder commander that's kind of similar? Like Karazakar is also, yeah, they're all pretty much the same idea. Like they're Rakdos Goad decks, but they all have their own little quirks as well. Like Carador is an ETB, so you can do like enter the battlefield blink abilities. Loreen and Camber are more oriented towards aristocrats, where you're sacrificing things. But they all have overlap. You'd run all of them in the same deck. All right. So I'm going to put them boop and a boop. A's. Now you might be saying, hey, Tomer, you're putting too many A's. Where are the other ones? Don't worry. They're coming. Anywhere I can find a Goldfish take on Clue versus Blood? I think Blood's better because it costs less to activate. And also the blood generators are a lot better than the Clue generators, I'll say. I think the flavor of Clue is a lot better than Blood, but I think mechanically speaking, Blood is stronger than Clues. Except, I guess Blood doesn't have as powerful of a commander for Blood as Clue does. And also, Clues have the golem. The golem that makes, like, whenever you make a clue or a treasure or a food, you make the other ones as well. That one's also really good, which Blood doesn't have. Anywho. And as I say, anywho, I need water. I'll be back, folks. I need a refill. One moment, please. Yeah, Academy Manufacturer. That's one. All right. Treasure tokens are the real MVP. Artifact tokens, yeah, they're the most busted ones. They have no activation costs and they give you mana. Kind of ridiculous. Kind of ridiculous. All right. We move on to Katilda Dawnheart Martyr. Martyr? Yeah, that's the one. So Katilda, we saw last set, was Selesnya Human Tribal. This one is very different. She had protection from werewolves before. Now she has protection from vampires, which, good on you. That's a good meta play. This is a mono white. It's 1 and 2 white for a 3-drop. Asterisk/asterisk power and toughness. It's a scalable legendary creature, Spirit Warlock, with flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires. And And Katilda's power and toughness are each equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. So, you know, if you have 10 spirits and 10 enchantments, that's a 20/20 with flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires, which is pretty big, I guess. The only weird thing is, for me personally, in this set, Wizards of the Coast has tried to kind of intertwine spirits and enchantments, kind of probably to make like the synergy between Disturb being auras now instead of creatures, and make it work a little bit better. With spirits, it doesn't really work that well for me. I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to be building a spirit enchantress deck after Crimson Vow. So I feel like it just kind of didn't really fit with me. So when I look at Katilda and I'm like, spirits and enchantments, I don't really care. Is this an enchantress commander? I don't think so. I mean, if you want to go Enchantress Voltron, then maybe. But also, if you want to go Enchantress Voltron, there's like Bruna, you know? This is Enchantress Voltron to me. You know, you self-mill yourself, you play Bruna, you attack, you put all the auras in your graveyard that you self-milled onto on her, and you just kind of win. So I don't know. It's all right, but like she will get very big if you're in a spirit deck or if you're an enchantment deck, which is where I think those decks are going to really be, where you're going to run Katilda. She's going to be basically like just a big old beat stick. Like she's going to be easily an 8/8 flying lifelink, and that's pretty darn good for 3 mana. That's all right. But the more exciting thing is the fact that you could still get value out of her in the graveyard with her Disturb cost. You just pay 5 mana to cast her from the graveyard, transformed as an aura. Boom, boom, boom. Katilda's Rising Dawn instead. And you enchant a creature, and they get all the same attributes. So they have flying, lifelink, protection from vampires, and plus X+X, where X is the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. So having both on the same card is very exciting to me. So at the front side, if it was just the front side without Disturb, that's fine, but it's not like something I'd go out of my way to add to a deck. Just like a big creature with flying and lifelink. But the fact that it has Disturb as well makes it a little bit more interesting to me in a bunch of decks. In Spirit Tribal, there's not a lot of ways to just like pump up a creature by this much. I guess like what's the closest thing? There's one with Bestow. I think it's essentially like it's like this Bestow creature. Where are you? Where are you? There we go. It's essentially, when I look at Katilda, it's essentially a beefier version of Eidolon of Countless Battles, where it gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. And if you replace the word creature with spirits, that's what basically Katilda is. But Katilda in the right deck is going to be also flying and lifelink, which is not irrelevant. So either in a spirit deck or a enchantress deck, she's going to be a superior Eidolon of Countless Battles. Superior in the sense that if you play her as a creature, she has flying and lifelink, which is pretty significant. And you can also cast her from the graveyard as that aura for Disturb. So I play a decent amount of Eidolon of Countless Battles as a finisher. And that's kind of where I see Katilda as well. I don't really like her as a commander, but as part of the 99, I consider her a really good finisher for spirit decks and enchantress decks. I personally gripe about the fact that like spirits and enchantress don't really mix, but you know what? It shouldn't really it doesn't really hinder the actual power level of the card at all. It's just like you could put it in a spirit deck, you could put it in an enchantress deck, you could put it in a deck that has spirits and enchantress, and it's even better. But just put it in either of those archetypes, and it's a good finisher. So I think it's a good finisher. I like it. Where would I put it? Boom. Easy. Not a commander that I'm excited for, but a good part of the 99. All right, moving on. Oof. Another face commander from the precons. This will be coming out on Sunday. I'll do the precon upgrade going up Sunday. Millicent, Restless, Revenant. This is a 7-mana Azorius 4/4 legendary creature spirit soldier. Very big mana cost, but realistically, you're never going to be casting it for 7. You're going to be casting it for a lot less because it costs 1 less to cast for each spirit you control. So if you have a board full of spirits, this can cost as low as a white and a blue. And also, interestingly enough, is if it's your commander, it can actually, this mana discount can actually work against the command tax. So let's say you're casting Millicent the second time. So instead of 7 mana, it's going to be 9. It's going to be 7 colorless and white and blue. If you have 7 spirits on the battlefield, you will still only cast Millicent for a green and a blue, which is very powerful. I mean, it makes it more resilient. So what does the card do itself? It's flying, and it says whenever it or another non-token spirit you control dies or deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying. This is like kind of insane for Spirit Tribal. Spirit Tribal, outside of like the Kamigawa colors, never really had a commander so much. So this is kind of a long time coming. Having a good Azorius Spirit commander for the the tokeny go wide version of Spirit Tribal is really cool. And it does a really good job of it. It basically says this deck, this version of Spirit Tribal wants to go wide. You get to cast Millicent for basically 2 mana if you go wide with spirits. And then as long as you have a bunch of spirits on the battlefield, whenever they die, so it's some good board wipe protection, you get to make another 1/1 spirit token. Or whenever you're dealing combat damage with non-token spirits, you're making more tokens. So it rewards you for being go wide by being cheap to cast, and then rewards you again for, by making a bunch of spirit tokens. So it's a really good generator of tokens in the Spirit Tribal deck. I think this card's really good. It's a niche that hasn't been really filled up until now. Azorius Spirits. Some people have been playing like Brago or whatever as the spirit leader, but that doesn't really fit for me. That's not scratching that itch. So I like it. It makes big flying spirit, or doesn't make big flying spirit. It makes spirit tokens very efficiently. Board wipe protection, all that good stuff. It's good. It's pretty simple. It's good. You put like a skull clamp on it. It's good. Is there like anything unique about this card? Special interactions? I'm not sure, but it's a good value engine. I don't know. I'm happy that it exists. So I'll give it. I'll say this is a very good commander, and because it's a very good commander, and because it fills a role that I think needed to be filled, it's going to be my first S. Good job, Wizards of the Coast. We finally got an Azorius Spirit Commander. Hooray. Well done. All right. Zaknir Tomer is in the itty bitty living space. What? Catching up with the videos. Please, someone explain to me all the talk of Tomer being fired. I'm not fired. It's a meme. When Millicent dies due to the board wipe that's triggering her, the spirit she brings up lets you bring her out again for just 2. Yeah, that's a big thing, is like, if you have a bunch of, it doesn't count on token spirits, but if you have a bunch of non-token spirits, Millicent puts a spirit in, and then, the other spirits that die also make tokens on their way out. So I think it's very good. There's probably going to be combo potential here too. Like this plus like an Astronaut's Altar plus like a Nim Death Mantle or something. That's a way to go infinite. So there's some fun things you can do for sure. And also like stuff like Anointed Procession, doubling your tokens. That's going to be a really fun way of using her as well. So it's good. It's good. I like it. It's a good card. But here's a card that has stirred up controversy. A lot of controversy. And oh boy, do I love it. Oh yeah, people hate this card. People hate this card. So I have some hot takes for everybody. This card isn't that bad. It is disappointing. I agree it's very disappointing, but I don't think it's that bad. So here's why. So Odric. Why is Odric disappointing? Well, first of all, he's not a very powerful card. He's a Boros. He's a 3-drop Boros. 1, a red, and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, vampire soldier. All right, so nothing that fancy right now. No keywords on himself. No first strike, no haste, no lifelink, no nothing. But he has a powerful enter the battlefield effect. When it enters the battlefield, you create X blood tokens, where X is the number of abilities from among flying, first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance found among creatures you control. How many is that? So you can make up to what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can make up to 12 blood tokens per enter the battlefield. Which, I mean, in the best case scenario, that's a lot. Medium case scenario, you're going to be making what, like, I don't know, like 3 blood tokens when he enters the battlefield, which is still pretty decent. Worst case scenario, though, Odric is only one on the battlefield when he enters the battlefield, and he makes 0. Which is a little bit unfortunate. Yeah, no Skulk, no Ward. These are true things, but it's still, you can still make 12 blood tokens, which is, it's good. This is good value, or top end for a 3-drop. The problem is not that this card is super weak in terms of like power distribution wise, like in a vacuum. In a vacuum, I think this is a well-costed card. The problem is twofold. First of all, this is an Odric card, and people have expectations for lore characters, especially like recurring lore characters that people actually know about and care about, to be good cards. And this one is not like an exceptional card by any means. So that's strike one. If you have a good lore character, he needs to have a good card, unless it's Edgar Markov, and then he can rot in his coffin for all I care. But people actually want an Odric to be pretty decent. So when he's mediocre, that's not that exciting. But I don't think he's as bad as people are actually assuming him to be, because I actually think he's pretty decently compared to his latest iteration that also cared about keywords. The first iteration, I think it was this one. Yeah, in 2013, Odric Master Tactician. First one doesn't care about keywords at all. It's just controlling who gets to attack and who gets to block or whatever. Or sorry, just who gets to block and how. That one's not about keywords. This one is the only other one with keywords. This is the last iteration of Odric that we saw. And very similar, this one cares about keywords. It basically distributes keywords across your entire army. So as long as you have one creature with flying, all your creatures have flying. As long as you have one creature with lifelink, all of them have lifelink, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, reach, skulk, blah, 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 blah. But look at some things here. First of all, this is a 4-mana 3/3. This is a 3-mana 3/3. This one has no keywords on its own character, on its own card. It doesn't come with any keywords itself. This one doesn't care about any keywords itself. I would say, power level wise, at the beginning, the bar or the floor on both of these are pretty much the same. In fact, Odric has a little bit higher bar, higher floor, because he's a 3-mana 3/3 instead of a 4-mana 3/3. The main difference here, though, the main difference between this Odric and the other Odric, and this is the real reason why it's disappointing, is that Odric Lunar Marshal fits in the deck that he's meant to be in. Both of these cards are keywords matter or keyword soup cards. And they want, if you're in that deck, you want to be rewarded for doing the keyword soup thing. And the original version of Odric Lunar Marshal does exactly that. Basically, if you've amassed a bunch of keywords like Odric wants you to, he then distributes those keywords to the other creatures that don't have those keywords. It's relevant, and it's a direct payoff for what your deck wants to be doing. If you're a keyword soup deck, you want your creatures to have all the keywords, and Odric helps you do that. He doesn't do much on his own. He does nothing on his own. He's just a 4-mana 3/3 on his own. But once you have those keywords, he will distribute those around to the rest of your creatures, including himself. And that's exactly what your keyword soup deck is supposed to do. Odric Blood Curse also gives you a good tangible reward, but he gives you blood tokens. And keyword soup doesn't have any inherent connection to blood tokens. Keyword soup decks don't have any direct connection to artifact tokens or rummaging, discarding, drawing cards. None of that stuff is directly, you could find direct connection to that in keyword soup. It's a nice payoff. It is a really good payoff. And if your deck does have ways of taking advantage of like artifact tokens or whatnot, then it's a really good card. But yeah, keyword soup is not about that. Like if you're looking at keyword decks, like one of the best keyword decks that can run both of these cards, Akroma Vision of Ixidor. Akroma says it basically gives a giant +1/+1 buff, or plus X plus buff for the number of keywords you've amassed on your creatures. The more keywords you've amassed, the bigger the buff you get. Odric, Lunar Marshal, is fantastic in this deck because he distributes all those keywords that you amass, so you get more value out of your Akroma. But like, what iteration of Akroma actually cares about artifacts as well? Like, I'm sure there has to be a partner pairing with her in red that does care about it, but like the most common partner pairing that I see with her is Rograk because he comes with 3 keywords. So that's like a big strike against it. Where Odric Ludung Marshal, the floor of this card is very low. It's a 4-mana 3/3, but the payoff is actually relevant to the deck archetype that you're looking for. Whereas Odric Blood Curse is like, nah, I make blood tokens, and like, yeah, you make a lot of blood tokens. Very good job, Odric. Very nice, very efficient. But it doesn't fit with what the home of this deck would want. So that's the problem with it. No Skulk is also another problem with it. Kind of disappointing that the only vampiric thing about New Odric is that it sucks. Oh, that's a good one, Phil. That is a good one. You could do Akiri. She cares about artifacts. Yeah, that's actually a good one. Akiri is a good one. Akiri plus Akroma is actually pretty sweet because Akiri will get buffs for each blood token you have. And she comes with 2 keywords, which is also nice. Rograk comes with 3 for 0 mana, but I mean this one gives you 2 for 2 and is a big beater. So yeah, I don't think Odric is like a bad card in a vacuum. I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. But the disappointing thing is that, yeah, I mean, he's just there to showcase the set's mechanic, which is kind of disappointing. And also, his reward does not fit the homes that he would potentially go into. So, yeah, it is a disappointing card. But I don't think people, like when people say he's super weak, I don't think that's fair. I think he's about as strong as the other Odrics, or at least a previous Odric, in terms of floor and power ceiling. But it's just that he doesn't really have a home because what he rewards you with is stuff that we don't really, keyword soup decks don't really do much with. If there was a keyword soup deck that cared about artifacts, then he would be fantastic. But that's not really a thing. You have to kind of go out of your way to make it happen. So poor Odric, he is disappointing. So we'll put him D for disappointing. But I still think he's a pretty sweet card. He's pretty sweet, but we'll put D for disappointing. All right. Yeah, you can't go to Cathrill because that's Abzan. All right. We'll move on. We'll speed up. All right. Old Rutstein. This is a Golgari human peasant. It's one a green and a black, 3-drop for a 1/4, so turtle power. Legendary creature, human peasant. I like that he's a peasant. I don't know. Is peasant like a big archetype? Because I kind of want to see peasant tribal. When Old Rutstein enters the battlefield or at the beginning of your upkeep, you mill a card. If a land is milled this way, create a treasure token. If a creature card is milled this way, create a 1/1 green insect creature. And then if a non-creature, non-land card is mill this way. Create a blood token. Peasants start in Eldraine, so they don't have a ton of support. Oh, well, I want Peasant Tribal. I feel like that has potential. As for this card, though, I don't know. It's fine. It's not exciting in any shape or form. It's a little bit of mill, very incremental. Happens at the beginning of your upkeep or when it enters the battlefield. You always get value out of it, but the value is it's random and it's hit or miss. I don't know. He makes tokens. Every single thing he does is he makes tokens. So if you have like a doubling season, no matter what you mill with this is it gets doubled. So that's kind of cool. You put him maybe like in a mill deck, but like he doesn't even mill that much. What does he do? He goes in Marin. Does he go in Marin? I don't really like him. He's okay, but he just does. He's very fair. I'll say that. He's an incredibly fair Golgari commander, which I respect. I also like that he's a peasant. I just find that just tickles my fancy. I also like that he's old. Like, what if we had like old people tribal? Could we have old people tribal? Yeah, it has a very low ceiling. That is very much what old Redstein is. It's like, what do you build around him? Like, is he insect tribal? He makes insects every once in a while. Is he treasure tribal? What does he do? What do you even do here, old Rutstein? This is like The Office, or what movie is that? Yeah. What's that planeswalker? The planeswalker insect planeswalker? Like Grist. So yeah, I'll put him in Grist. Grist likes self-mill and likes office space. That's the one. What do you even do here? Yeah, I put him in Grist. But he just doesn't do a lot. He just doesn't do. He's a little value edge that tries. I would put him in old people tribal. Like, imagine you run like every single elder, you know. You run all the elders, you run all the old people. You run the elder dragons. It's just like old people tribal. That would be great. Just led by frickin' old Rutstein. And then maybe Uncle Isvan. Maybe Uncle Isvan can join, you know? We have Uncle Isvan in the house as well. That's great. I like the idea, honestly. But that's basically it. Like, I'm gonna play for the memes, but he's a solid C. He's a solid C. He's only a C because he's not actively bad. And I think old people tribal would be amazing. Anyway, moving on. All right. We got Olivia Crimson Bride. This is the latest iteration of Olivia. We've seen her 2 other times. Olivia Valderin in the original set. And then we saw her again in Shadows over Innistrad, Olivia Mobilized for War. And now we see her in her bridal gown, Olivia Crimson Bride from the Crimson Vow. And this is one of her flashiest versions, I would say. It's a 6-drop for a black and a red. So Rakdos for a 3/4. Legendary creature, Vampire Noble, flying haste. Whenever Olivia Crimson Bride attacks, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains when you don't control a legendary vampire. Exile this creature. So, yeah, this is Rakdos Reanimator. This is a very efficient form of reanimation too, by the way. The first time you cast her and reanimate something not that efficient, but this is a repeatable reanimation engine. So you cast her, she has flying and haste, so she immediately gets in there, gets in that 3 damage, plus she's going to be immediately reanimating things the turn you cast her. They're going to be entering the battlefield tapped and attacking. And yes, they do get exiled eventually if you do lose a legendary creature. If you lose all your legendary vampires. But I mean, it's not when Olivia herself leaves. It's just when you have no more legendary vampires. So if you have a vampire tribal deck that has a lot of vampire legendaries, if Olivia leaves, but you have some other legendary vampire on the battlefield, you're still golden. The flashy version is the Fangborder one. Yeah, this one's sick too. I miss that she doesn't have the activate ability like her past versions. That would be more fitting, I agree. But I still think this version is pretty solid. And I think it's going to be solid in two different decks. It's going to be, I think it's a very respectable top end for Vampire Tribal. You know, once you get to 6 mana, you probably have a couple of vampires that are already dead in your graveyard. And then you just use Olivia to repeatedly reanimate stuff over and over again. And your opponents need to deal with Olivia and any other legendary creatures you have on the battlefield before you can actually permanently deal with the situation. The other way you can build her is you just put her in basically like any reanimation deck. Because, yeah, like eventually the creature will get exiled, but whatever. I mean, you're going to get immediate value. Like, the reanimated creature is already tapped and attacking, so you're already getting in that one swing at the very least. She also can combo off, not very well, but it is available to her. If you're copying if you're reanimating Portraiser says when it deals combat damage to a player, you untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase, and it can't attack a player that has already attacked this turn. So the way this works with Olivia is use Olivia to reanimate Portraiser. Portraiser will be reanimated, attacking, tapped and attacking. If it deals combat damage to any player, you get to untap the Portraiser and Olivia and take an extra combat step. Then what you do is you use a repeatable sack outlet. You can use Goblin Bombardment, but you can also use, like, if you're in Vampire Tribal or whatever, you can use Seer or whatever repeatable creature sack outlet you have is going to work. I think Bombardment's a little bit better because you're going to repeatedly ping stuff and you can remove blockers with it. But yeah, before you attack again with Olivia in your extra combat phase, you sacrifice the Portraiser, then move to your extra attack phase, attack with Olivia again, reanimate the Portraiser again, taking attacking the same person that you attacked last time or whatever, anybody who doesn't have a blocker for the Portraiser. And then you just keep doing this over and over again. And keep in mind, when you're doing this, Portraiser has to be dealing combat damage to the player. But this repeatable sacrifice and reanimation gets around this little thing. Portraiser can't attack a player who has already attacked this turn. Well, if first of all, you're reanimating the Portraiser with Olivia, so it's already tapped and attacking when it's reanimated. So that gets around that. But also, even if that didn't work, each time Portraiser leaves the battlefield and re-enters the battlefield, whenever it leaves the battlefield, it's considered a separate entity from its previous version. So the Portraiser that died and reanimated is not the same one that attacked the player, or game-wise, is not the same one that has that same restriction. So either way, you're getting around that can't attack restriction two different ways with Olivia. And you can just attack the same person over and over again, or anybody who doesn't have a blocker. Or if you ping down, any potential blockers of Goblin Bombardment, you can hit other people too. But also at the same time, Olivia can attack whatever person she wants that's different from the Portraiser. So you can be attacking one person with Olivia, you can attack one person with the Portraiser. You can potentially kill like multiple people this way, or just kill the entire table by doing this. So it's an infinite combo. It's a little bit shaky, obviously. Like if you kill Olivia, if you remove the Portraiser, if Portraiser doesn't have a person that can attack and deal combat damage to, those are all things that no longer make this combo work. But it's something to have in your back pocket. And obviously, like Portraiser is just a good card, Olivia is just a good card. Putting them together, you got an infinite combat engine. So yeah, it's good. I like Olivia. I like her. I like what she does. Where do I put her? I don't know. I like her. She's an A. Or S. She's an S. I like her. I also like the gown. It's cute. All right. Next up. All right. Rhoda Geist Avenger. So this is another partner pair. This one is going to be Rhoda and Timon Youthful Geist. So Timon is this one. So Rhoda is a white creature. It's a white 4-drop, 3 and a white legendary creature, human soldier, 3/3. Partners with Timon Youthful Geist. It has vigilance. And whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't declared as an attacker, put a +1/+1 counter on Rhoda Geist Avenger. So starts as a 3/3, which is undercosted. It has vigilance though, which is kind of nice. And then if you can tap your creatures or your opponent's creatures repeatedly, this can grow very big. I wish that it counted whenever they became tapped, even if they're being declared as an attacker. I think that would have been pretty sick, but maybe it would be a little bit too strong, and it would probably discourage opponents attacking, which would slow down the game. So I guess it's for the best it was worded this way. But this is a cool way of like taking advantage of the fact like you can tap down opponents' creatures, which is something that both white and blue do very, very well. The payoff though is you just get a big creature, which I don't know. It's like whatever. It doesn't have flying. It has vigilance. So I guess that's fine. Let's see the blue side. The blue side is even more expensive. The Timon Youthful Geist. It's a 5-drop. It's a 4 and a blue for a 3/4 spirit with flying. And it says at the beginning of each combat, tap up to 1 target creature. So beginning of each combat's interesting because that means not just your combat, but each opponent's turns, their combat, you can tap up to 1 creature. So you can tap basically 4 creatures per turn cycle, which not only screws up people's blockers, like you're basically removing a blocker each combat step, but you're also preventing people from attacking you if you're afraid of attacks or whatever. And at the same time, you're pumping up Rhoda, which is cool. It's fine. I don't think I've ever seen tap tribal before, but yeah, Verity Circle is very good. It's probably the best thing. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. So Verity Circle plus Timon equals you could draw like 4 cards per turn cycle, which is really good. But just like I like Timon a lot. Timon's really cool. Rhoda is like, I wish Rhoda had like flying, just some evasion. Evasion would be great. I like Timon so much, but then Rhoda's so, and also Timon's 5 mana, which I guess it's fair, but it's I wish these cards were better. It's such a cool concept, but it's just like I don't see myself playing this much. Yeah, if Timon's why is Timon a 3/4 when he's so tiny? Yeah, he's hanging out on her shoulder, right? Man, I really wish I liked these partners, but they're just too weak. Man. I don't know what to do with these. I love the idea of them, but they're just so blah. I'm gonna put them in B. They're like a B- to me. Where like I love the idea of them, but they're just so blah. Oh well. Whatever. I'm just gonna move on. I'm not gonna think about it. Runa Stromkirk is a card that I do like though. I feel like they were balanced for partner, not partner with. I guess so, but even that I'm kind of about, because like, is Jessica and Tevis Vat balanced for partner? I don't think so. I think they're stupid. They're stupid cards. This one's just like they just missed. They just went a little bit too low. Too low on that power level. Could have notched it up a little bit, but whatever. It's fine. Runo Stromkirk. This is a Dimir vampire cleric, head of the Stromkirk clan, or family, or whatever. It is very much like based on the Cthulhu mythos, which is super fun and exciting. So he loves the sea. You know, here he is praying at the sea. And he's a 3 mana. He's turtle power, 1/4. Legendary creature, vampire cleric, flying. Why does he fly? I don't know, but he's flying. I guess he needs to fly over the water. That's important. When Runo Stromkirk enters the battlefield, put up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. That's okay. That's not really recursion. Or, I mean, it's pseudo-recursion, I guess. Not great recursion, but at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card. If a creature card with mana value 6 or greater is revealed this way, transform Runo Stromkirk. Bada bing, bada boom. He transforms into Krothers, Lord of the Deep, and oh my god, this is straight up Cthulhu, and I love it. I love this already. I love the flavor of both sides. I love that he flips into being a big Kraken horror. It's a 3/5 with flying. I don't know why it flies. That one's a really weird one. Like, I look at the art, and I look at the fact that, like, Krothus swims, and yet this one flies. I mean, it's a buff, but, like, my brain, it doesn't make sense. So I don't know how to make that. I guess madness is a part of the Cthulhu mythos, and the fact that it flies is a little bit maddening to me. So I think that's a flavor win. But what it does is whenever it attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. If that creature is a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent, you create 2 of those tokens instead. Swimming is flying underwater. This is true. This is very true. And Island Walk's not really a thing anymore, so I guess. So I like this. I like this very much. It's like a big buff to Sea Monster Tribal. It's in the mirror, which isn't really Sea Monster Tribal colors. Usually you see like Arixmithes is usually the go-to for sea monsters. Mono blue is sea monsters. Simic is sea monsters. So this is the mirror sea monsters, and that's exciting because like I would definitely put Runo as my commander for a new Dimir Sea Monster Tribal deck. So that's really exciting. That's the design space that I really like. 3 mana for this. He flips very easily. You just need to put a sea monster. Sea monsters are expensive. You put a sea monster on top of your library, and you can flip him very consistently. I mean, I've seen Rexiel. Yeah, Rexiel's all right. But I like this more for Sea Monster Tribal because it's like a big payoff for it. So you put a sea monster, you entomb a sea monster, whatever. Sea monster's in your graveyard. You put it on top of your library. You flip Runo. It's a 3-drop, very easy to flip. You get a 3/5 flyer, and then every single time you're attacking, you get to copy a creature that's also attacking. And if it's a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent, if it's a sea monster, you get to make 2 copies of those instead. Yeah, I like this. I think it's good value for the 3-drop. It's a lot of hoops, but I mean, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to flip it. It's not that hard to get this value. And then you're doubling the value out of your Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and whatnot. What's that new one? There's like a Kraken that like from Strixhaven that's like super fun. There we go. Spawning Kraken. Like imagine you attack with Krothus and Spawning Kraken. So you make 2 copies of the Spawning Kraken. You're attacking with 3 Spawning Krakens. So that's 18 power instead of 6. And then every single time any of your Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, or Serpents are dealing combat damage, you're making a 9/9 Kraken creature. Imagine having frickin' 3 of these on the battlefield. Ooh, I'm going into Christmas Land, obviously. I'm going into Christmas Land, but you have 3 of these triggers. Every single one of your Krakens or whatever, your sea monsters, dealing combat damage makes 3 9/9 Kraken tokens. Oh my god. Oh, I'm so excited. I don't believe the tokens attack. What do you mean? Oh, they're not attacking. Oh, that's true. But whatever. So you attack with the Spawning Kraken, you attack with Krothus, okay? You have 2 creatures. You're attacking Krothus and you're attacking with the Spawning Kraken. You make 2 copies of the spawning Kraken. The Kraken deals damage, or Krothos deals damage. Krothos has flying. He's going to deal the damage, you know? And then you make 3 9/9 Krakens. Yeah? Yeah. Attacking. Oh, it's attacking token. Yeah. Oh, it's even better. It's even better. It's the best case today. This is a Christmas thing that I love. I love all of this. Also, the other alternative you can do here, you don't even have to go... Sea Monster Tribal. You can go Arcane Adaptation in Runa Stromkirk. So like imagine instead of going Sea Monsters, you just like, I don't know, you're a basic Dimir player and you run Grey Merchant instead. Your Arcane Adaptation, make it a Kraken or whatever, and then you make 2 extra copies of Grey Merchant or whatever. I don't know. You tell me what you're gonna do with this. This is crazy. I love it. This is all for 3 mana, by the way. This is a 3-drop. This is a 3 mana creature, and it's so easy to flip. And then you get Big Cthulhu, and he flies. He flies for some reason, I don't know. And then you make look at the spawning Krakens. Tell me this is not exciting. Tell me making 3 of these is not exciting. You can't. You'd lie. You'd lie to my face like that. I would never believe you. Never believe you. Copying 1 Muldrifter every turn. Yeah, you're at least copying, like, even if you don't meet this criteria, you're making a copy of 1 thing. You're making a copy of 1 thing, but usually you're making 2 copies. And it's for a 3-drop. This is so good. Oh man, I love this. This, my friends, is gonna be the S++. This is the best tier. Add row above. I don't even know what the color is. Sea monsters. Yay. I'm making new rows. You can't stop me. Runo is my favorite commander from the set, if you could not tell. All right, let's move on. Another face card. This one I'm going to have a video on tomorrow. So if you like the precon with Strefon on it, check out the video tomorrow. It's going to be an upgrade on the precon deck. Yeah, and it's Runo. Strefon needed a card too. Actually, I don't think we knew the name of the Progenitor Maurer before. But here he is. Strefon Maurer? I don't know how to say it. Is Phil here? Phil, how do you say Maurer? I think it means like wall or something. Fun fact, for anybody who likes D&D, I wrote a Innistrad D&D adventure. And one of the final chapter of the adventure, the final stretch of it, the heroes or the players need to go. I wouldn't say hero. The murder hobos have to go to the Maurer estate, and I believe it's like wall in German or something. Bricklayer, yeah. I was way too lazy to Google it, but that's why everybody else is here. So yeah. So that was kind of cool. But like by the time of the original Innistrad storyline, the Maurer estate, like the Maurer bloodline, is gone, or is like decimated. I don't think the progenitor lives anymore, and the estate where they used to live in is now just like ruins. Link to the adventure. I don't know how to link it. That's not the Maurer. Yeah, he's probably just visiting the wedding, you know. Or this might be a glimpse in the you know, long ago, because they do sometimes, like in newer sets, they'll show depictions of older places in the timeline. There's another one, but the Maurers are still not common. Oh, there's another estate. Do they have another palace or something? I don't know. Link to the if you text me on DM me on Twitter or email me and I'll send you a link to it. Link to the MTG Goldfish Innistrad D&D games. We played the entire adventure on MTG Goldfish, not this channel, the other one, the main channel. but that was like 3 years ago or so. 3 or 4 years ago. Holy shit. It's been a while. But yeah, we played the entire thing in full there. Anyway, so Strephon, Maurer, Progenitor, 4-drop, Rakdos, 2, a black and a red, for a 3/2 legendary creature, Vampire Noble, flying. And at the beginning of your end step, you create a blood token for each player who lost life this turn. So, if you could make either 0 blood tokens on the floor, or the ceiling of this is you make 4 blood tokens if this is a 4-player game. Obviously, if you have more players or less players, you can make more or less blood tokens based on the number of people you have. But your typical game, you can make up to 4. So if you lose life, plus your opponents are losing life as well. So like if you have like a Pyrohemia or something on the battlefield where you ping every single person, or Sulfuric Vortex, or not a Sulfuric Vortex, Pyrohemia is a good one, or Pestilence or whatever. Lots of ways of dealing like mass damage to everybody. You can make four blood tokens every single end step. So the turn he comes out, you're still making 4 blood tokens on the end step. That's a really good rate for a 4-drop. That's super efficient if you can get it to consistently work that way. Then, whenever Strephon attacks, you may sacrifice 2 blood tokens. If you do, you may put a vampire card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn, so you don't have to worry about blockers killing it or whatever. It's going to be Gucci Gang for at least the first time it attacks. This is really good. This is you're sneak attacking, perma sneak attacking out vampires from your hand onto the battlefield. This is like a huge mana discount essentially for your vampire tribal deck. Both things together makes Strephon like insanely good value. He's making an insane amount of blood tokens, 4 per turn as a ceiling, and he's letting you save so much mana putting your vampire cards onto the battlefield. Like some of the vampires cost like 6 mana, you know? Like they can get really expensive, and you're putting them out for free. So you're saving so much mana on that while making all these blood tokens. Like it's great. This is a really good card. Yeah, for example, you can compare it to Odric, who maybe makes 3 blood tokens one time. Yeah, poor Odric. Yeah, Strephon is the real deal here. He's one of the best reliable token engines. You just have to add ways to make sure that you're pinging everybody. So obviously, like you're in Vampire Tribal, you got ways of pinging people. If a bunch of creatures die, you just do this. I mean, you can also like do like if you care about non-vampires, you can put like Zulpul Cutthroat or something like that. But like Pestilence, you deal 1 damage to each person and each creature. Whoop! That's one way to make sure that you have blood tokens. I don't know why I'm so burpy today. I'm sorry. I'm just drinking water. Maybe I had a Coke in the morning. Coca-Cola, by the way, not the other kind. So maybe I'm fizzy. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, this card is really strong. The card is really strong, and it kind of yields to some cool designs. Like Edgar Markov is obviously the strongest vampire tribal leader, but the difference between Edgar Markov and like Strephon is that Edgar Markov really wants that really like aggressive low cost curve to make maximum use of his Eminence ability, right? Like you want to have to fill up with like 1-drops, 2-drops, and 3-drops. Whereas Strephon basically allows you to cast more expensive play more expensive vampire cards in your 99 because you now have a reliable way of cheating them onto the battlefield and getting around their huge mana cost. So he's a massive mana discount. So if you actually want to play a vampire tribal deck that has a higher curve, this actually might be a better call to play over Edgar Markov, which is really weird for me to say because I just went on a big tangent with Edgar Markov on saying like how he's the best vampire leader. But in reality, Edgar Markov is better suited for low-cost vampire tribal decks. And while he is a stronger commander, if you did want to play with the more expensive ones, Strephon is probably the way to go. And also, if you want to play a blood token deck, this is probably the best blood token commander if you are going Vampire Tribal, which you probably are, because he can reliably generate 4 tokens each turn. And even if you're not going Vampire Tribal, if you just care about a commander that cares specifically about blood, you need to be Rakdos. And this is probably the best version. Like if you just ignore the second paragraph and you were just focusing on Bloods entirely, this is for a turn is pretty much one of the best you can get, I think. So this card is real good. Real good. Cryptolith Fragment. Yeah, that's a really good one. Cryptolith Fragment's really good because it pings everybody for one each time you tap it. So this commander exceeds my expectations. He's an incredibly powerful commander, and I really enjoy his cheat effect because it does allow you to play higher cost vampires without feeling like you're hindering yourself. It really gives you an excuse to go ham with it a little bit. Obviously, you need to have other ways of cheating in your high-cost commanders. You know, you should have a reanimation package and whatnot. And blood tokens are a good way to discard your high-cost vampires and then reanimate them for cheaper later. So there's a lot of synergies here you can work with. He is like Florian, where like you want to have ways of pinging your opponents as well. This is a great card, great design. It's a very powerful commander. You got to respect it on the battlefield, but I really like how it was designed. I'm really excited to play with him, and he's not a C monster, but he is an S. He's definitely an S. And I guess, I'm putting... He's in the C monster tier. I really like him a lot. He's like S. Yeah, he's there. I'll put Olivia here. And, yeah, this is correct to me. This is correct to me. All right. We'll move on. Oh, we don't have that many left. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, we got Timothar, Baron of Bats. Timothar, not Tomerthar. Please do not meme me with Timothar, please, and thank you. Timothar, Baron of Bats. This is a black, mono black, 4 and double black, 6-drop, 4/4, legendary creature, vampire noble. Ward, discard a card. Ward, discard a card is very annoying to deal with. Yeah, it's a nice. It's not going to stop him from dying, but it's going to make people think twice about it, which is good. And then whenever another non-token vampire you control dies, you may pay 1 and exile it. If you do, you create a 1/1 black creature token with flying. It gains when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it, and return the exiled card to the battlefield tapped. This is super cool. I really like this because like there's a trope obviously with, you know, vampires turning into bats, and we've seen it a couple times in the past, but this is another, it's fairly uncommon that we see that often. We've seen it before, but it's fairly uncommon. So I really like this trope of like, yeah, you think you killed the vampire, but he retreats in his bat form, you know, and then once he's ready to reemerge, he reemerges as a vampire self. So I love the flavor of this. It nails it. Really cool. It's a 6-drop, so it's kind of expensive, but its ability screams to me basically like an aristocrat's version of Vampire Tribal. You know, there's a couple cards that care about sacrificing vampires or whenever a vampire dies, for example. So there's pretty much enough, I think, that you can go for like a vampire aristocrat sort of build. Here we go. Sacrifice vampire. I'll show you what I mean. So, I mean, not those. Here we go. Falconwrath, Pit Fighter, one of the newer cards. Sacrifice a vampire, draw 2 cards. Not this one. This one. Indulgent Aristocrat, sacrifice a creature, put a counter on each vampire you control. Again, sacrifice, gain value out of vampires. Scion of Opulence, when it or another vampire you control dies, you make a treasure token. I guess those are it. I thought there were more, but there's a couple. You can see there's a couple. Wait, there's another one, actually. There's a Cordial Vampire. I don't know how it's spelled. Cordial Vampire? Cordial Vampire. Whenever Cordial Vampire or another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. Yeah, those are good. Calatus. Whenever a non-token creature and opponent... No, this is... sacrifice another vampire or zombie, put a +1/+1 counter. So, you can see there are quite a few aristocrat vampire cards. And I think that's where Timothar really wants to shine the most, because yeah, this is a great way of protecting your creatures from like board wipes and removal and whatever. But it's going to be even better if you have ways of sacrificing your vampires purposely for value. If you have like an anger or something in the graveyard, like a haste enabler, like imagine you sacrifice a vampire for value, you make a hasted bat creature with flying, you immediately attack, and then you sacrifice that, and you return the exiled creature immediately on the same turn. That seems really powerful to me. It's super cool. Super cool. Just flavor and mechanics and everything like that. It's 6 mana, so it's kind of expensive for what it's doing, but it has a lot of potential. I like the flavor of it. I don't really like it as a commander. It's mono black and it's 6 mana, and yeah, it's a little bit clunky as a commander. But as part of the 99 in like a sacrifice style deck, boy howdy is this fun. This is a fun card. So that's a solid A for me, folks. I'm gonna put Kalitas as a B, I guess. Yeah. Katilda as a B. We'll put Jack as a... This is where we're going to put them. Yeah, that's better. I think that's more fair. All right. No. Tomerthar it is? No! I said don't do that. This is Streisand affected yourself? No, man. Timothar is basically a worse version of Hoffrey Ghostforge, like in every way. But, is it though? Exile it, becomes a copy, except it's a spirit. It leaves the battlefield. Well, I mean, it has to leave the battlefield. This one, it only has to deal combat damage. You know? When this creature leaves the battlefield, return to the battlefield. So this is like better for like blink and whatnot, but or sacrifice decks. I guess it's better for sacrifice decks. But the other one, you could just deal combat damage and get it back. I don't know. Yeah, maybe Hover's a little bit better, but whatever. It's a different deck. It's fine. All right, the other one that I really like, Tauren's Fist of the Angels. Tauren's is very similar to like, he's basically like the not that Monastery Mentor. Thank you, Scryfall. Tauren's is basically like Monastery Mentor, but for creatures. This is a 3-drop prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make a creature token with prowess. Tauren's is a 3-drop with training. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 green and white human soldier creature token with training. Very similar, just the creature version of the Monastery Mentor, but with some other differences, obviously. Tauren's is really good in basically like any creature heavy deck because he poops out a lot of creatures. This is like a very efficient token generator engine. And obviously, if you care about either +1/+1 counters, humans or soldiers, this gets even better. I don't know how many soldier decks are in Selesnya. I think it's more like a Whites and Boros thing, but there's definitely a lot of human decks in Selesnya, like Katilda and Sigarda and Kyler. I think those are the 3 ones that just came out. And this makes human tokens. So like imagine that plus like you play Tauren's in a Katilda deck. You know, you can tap all your humans for 1 mana of any of its creatures' colors. You put Tauren's on the battlefield and boom, you're just like pooping out humans all day, every day, and you turn that into mana and powering out some big spells. That's kind of huge. And then they all have training. So Tauren's can immediately like start increasing the power of your 1/1 creatures, put +1/+1 counters on them, and Tauren's himself can get bigger too. He can also train, so you can get a lot of +1/+1 counters on all your creatures very, very quickly and efficiently. And then when you're doing that, you know, there's a lot of payoff cards for +1/+1 counters matters. Like imagine you attack with all your dudes and they're trading and they all get +1/+1 counters on them, and then somebody tries to board wipe or whatever, or you just feel like drawing cards. Bada bing, bada boom, you cast Inspiring Call. You draw a card for each creature you control with +1/+1 counter on it, which is like a bajillion, and then those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. But that's great. That's so good. We'll add to my Captain Sisay Legendaries only deck. I mean, this is a great card for that too, especially if you're creature focused. The deck that I'm personally most excited for is Hamza. I love me Hamza. I know chat does not care about Hamza. I get it. You know what? I get it. Hamza's not for everybody. But me, I like my go wide counter decks with Hamza. I'm a big fan, big fan. And guess what, Torrens is either a better leader for it, probably a better leader for it, honestly, or the best card in 99 of Hamza. Either way, go wide, +1/+1 counters. Beautiful. It's a thing in beauty. I'll always have Hamza as my commander over Torrens. Not because of if it's stronger or whatever, but look at this beautiful boy. Look at my beautiful boy. He's a woolly mammoth, fully armored, with a giant-ass sword. Majestic. Wonderful. I love him. Mwah. Torrens, fantastic too. He's a cutie patootie. But also Hamza. Look at Hamza. I'm just saying. Anyway, so Torrens, I would say, is a solid commander. But more excitingly, is that even a phrase? No, he's a solid commander. He's a solid commander for go wide, +1/+1 counter. Humans, soldier, tribal, whatever you want to do. But he's also really good at Hamza. He's also really good in Katilda. He's a good card. He's a good card. He's a very good card. He's beautiful. I love him. I'm gonna put him as a nest. I like him a lot. I like him a whole bunch. All right, we got two more, and then we're done. Final stretch, the final countdown. All right, Toxrill the Corrosive. This is a slug horror. So it's already a legendary slug. So that's already at least a C+. It goes up a rank. I don't make up the rules. I actually do, but I don't. 7 mana, so 5 double black. For a Dimir commander, it has a blue activation cost, which is why it's a black creature, but commander identity is going to be blue. 7 mana, 7/7, legendary creature, slug horror. I love slugs. I love horrors. I'm already sold on this creature. At the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. A slime counter. Imagine a slime counter is already. This is already goes from a D to a C because it's a slug horror, and now because it's putting slime counters on stuff, it's easily a B at the very minimum. I don't even care what the card does. It slimes your opponent's creatures. That's already fantastic. I want customized, those green customized translucent slime counters that I want to put on my opponent's creatures. Beautiful. Love everything about it. All right. What else does it do? Well, creatures you don't control get -1 for each slime counter on them. So you're slowly weakening all your creatures until eventually they're just going to die. Whenever a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, create a 1/1 black slug creature token. Fantastic. I love it. And then you can pay blue and a black, sacrifice a slug, draw a card. Frog, slug, croak, slime. Yeah, I mean, these are doing these things, making a silly animal that is a horror and adding weird counters to it. You sell me on it. You could just take my money, Wizards of the Coast. That's how you win me over. That's it. I'm a very simple man. I see slug horrors that make slime counters, and I buy. And I buy the set. I say, great set. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast. So this card has been making people kind of salty before the card even showed up. The idea behind this is essentially you play Toxrill. Every single turn cycle, all your opponent's creatures die. Because at the beginning of each end step, you slime up your opponents. They get -1. It's cumulative. You add more and more counters to them, and everything dies. So people are a little bit salty about that because, as soon as you put Toxrill on the battlefield, basically all your opponent's creatures are going to die unless they have an immediate response or like a relatively quick response. The sorcery speed removal works too. A response to Toxrill. And also, if Toxrill is on the battlefield, you have to think twice about actually casting your creature, putting it on the battlefield with Toxrill still on the battlefield, because it will also die too. So people who don't have any interaction for Toxrill are going to be pretty salty about it. But also, on the flip side, reasonable side here, Toxrill's a 7-drop with no inherent protection from removal. He dies to basically any common form of removal in Commander, Source of Plowshares, a board wipe, whatever. And if you're paying 7 mana for this effect and he dies to a 1 mana removal spell, the person who cast that 7 mana spell, they're probably losing out on that trade, So I'm not too worried about that from the salt from like the basic end of it. He's essentially an Elish Norn for Dimir, right? Elish Norn enters the battlefield, all your opponent's smallest creatures die, and your creatures get an anthem, right? It just immediately happens, bada bing, bada boom. Also a 7-drop, but in white. Toxrill's a little bit different, where it doesn't pump up your own creatures, but it will kill basically all your opponent's creatures in due time. In due time, you know? So yeah, it's a good effect, but it is 7 mana, so I would much more rather, instead of having this as a commander, because 7 mana is a lot for a commander, I would much rather have this in the 99 of a deck that I can just basically shove into my graveyard, you know, Entomb, Buried Alive, any way of just shoving this into my graveyard without casting it, and then just reanimate it when I need it. Because it's very effective at what it does. It's very unique at what it does. It's asymmetrical board wipe, essentially, that gives you additional bonuses. But, you know, 7 mana to hard cast is a little bit rough. So I don't think I would like it too much as a commander, except unless I was going Slug Tribal. If I'm going Slug Tribal, this is the only thing you can really choose, you know? This is perfect. If you're going Slug Tribal, this is the one that you put as your commander. But otherwise, yeah, I put it in the 99, and I think it's good there. However, if you do want to go Salt, and I know some degenerates out there want to go Salt, and I don't judge, you know, I would say, what horrible monster would do such a thing? But I'm just throwing it out there, just so you're aware, you know, just so you know what to look out for these horrible monsters that would do such a horrible thing. Not us. We are pristine, beautiful, fair Magic players. We would never do such horrible things, but we just want to know what horrible things to look out for, right? Look out for. We're not going to do this ourselves. What we could do is we could play Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth in Toxrill, okay? What this does is it turns each land is a swamp in addition to its other land types, which is great. You're in Toxrill, you're in Dimir, you know? And Urborg basically is mana fixing. It's great. You know, like all your blue land sources are not going to tap for black as well. Your colorless lands are going to tap for black as well. It's mana fixing. It's great. It's beautiful. You know, nothing to worry about. Then some horrible monster will take Urborg, take Toxrill, and add Cormuspell. And what Cormuspell does is 4 mana artifact that says all swamps are 1/1 black creatures that are still lands. So all the swamps are now 1/1 creatures. All the lands on the battlefield are swamps because of Urborg. So now every single land on the battlefield is a 1/1 creature swamp. And then when Toxrill, at Toxrill's end step, or at each end step rather, Toxrill will then put a slime counter on every single creature your opponents control, including the 1/1 swamp lands. They will get -1/-1, and then they will die. Very rude. Oh, and then Toxrill gets a bunch of creature slug tokens as well. Very rude, very horrible, very salt-inducing. And I'm just saying, again, I know none of you would do such a thing. None of you would do such a horrible, horrible thing. But I just wanted you guys to know that is a potential, you know, to look out for. To look out for, you know? Terrible thing that could happen. I just want you to be safe, you know? I want you to be safe and be aware, you know? Knowledge is power, okay? Knowledge is power. All right. S tier. S tier. I think we covered Toxrill pretty well. All right. All right. Next up, the final one, and then I'll answer some questions. Oh wait, first, Tormented, can you talk about how this set Werewolf are much better than the last one? I mean, last set had Tovolar, so I think the last set was better. Though this set had a lot of good ones too. But I mean, the card that Werewolf Tribal needed was Tovolar, and they got it in Midnight. So Midnight Hunt's better. All right. Last one. Umbrous Fear Manifest. It's a Dimir. 3 blue, black for a 1/1. Very small. 1/1. Legendary creature, Nightmare Horror. So it's another horror. I love horrors. This is great. Umbrous Fear Manifest gets +1/+1 for each card your opponents own in exile. Okay. It doesn't do anything yet. It's still just a 1/1. Everything's chill. But whenever Umbrous or another nightmare or horror enters the battlefield under your control, target opponent exiles cards from the top of the library until they exile a land card. So when it enters the battlefield, you're exiling a bunch of lands or a bunch of cards. I think it's going to be like an average of 4. I think 4 cards that are going to be exiling. Less than that, I think it's going to be like 3 and a bit. I think it's like 3 and a bit. Wait, I don't even know how to do it actually. Let's say it's like a 36 land deck. I don't know how many it's going to be out of 99. I don't know. It's going to be some amount, you know? It's going to be some amount. I'm not a mathematician, all right? So it ends the battlefield, exiles a couple cards on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. And that will grow itself. And also, it's whenever another nightmare or horror enters the battlefield, like Toxrill. I don't know how many nightmares or horrors are playable in Commander. There are like some really janky ones from way back in the day that are like actually like actual trash. Where are we get nightmare? We'll do nightmare. We'll do horror. We'll see what good stuff there are. Allow partial match types, and we'll do black and blue. No. What is good? What is good here? Let's sort by EDH rank. Ravenous Chupacabras, a horror. Psychosis Crawlers, a horror. Woe Strider, Chasm Skulker, Keurig, cool. All right, there's some good ones. I mean, it kind of falls apart after Mind Slicer, I think. But, you know, there's some bad ones. Where are the nightmares? I swear there's like some really bad nightmares. Like this is like a legit nightmare, but like there's like old school ones. There's like from Planar, like really old ones. Where are you? Where's the trash? Where's trash tier? Am I thinking of the wrong thing? Isn't there like it has like a star symbol on it, and they're nightmares, I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a different thing. There's like a mass reanimation thing that's like you sacrifice all your lands or whatever. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, point is you can go like nightmares and horrors, and you can start like exiling the top cards of your opponent's libraries. The nightmare that skips your turn. No, there's like one where it's like return all nightmares from the graveyard to the battlefield, and then you like sacrifice all your lands or something like that, or sacrifice all your swamps. Is it Night Stalkers? Am I getting it wrong with Night Stalker? I think I am. Yeah, this is the one. Return all Night Stalker cards from your graveyard to play, then destroy all your swamps. Yeah, these cards are terrible, but they're not even nightmares. They're Night Stalkers. These look really cool though, but yeah, alas. Oh well, that doesn't work. Anyway, yeah, Ingest works with this. People were talking like, obviously you want to go Oblivion Sower. You know, if you're exiling like half your opponent's decks, each time you're triggering Umbrous, you're like guaranteeing another land is exiled. So Oblivion Sower is really good. You know, clearing out their graveyards is really good. So Bajuka's Bog is really good. So Umbrous is just like a big old beater. He's a big old beater that he exiles a lot of the cards off the opponent's libraries. It's probably not going to exile them to death really easily, unless you have some sort of like infinite blink combo or something like that. But the main purpose here is like the main fear your opponents are going to have about this card, Fear Manifest, if you will, is that it's the combo killer, right? Like if you have cards in your deck that you absolutely need to see in order for the deck to function, you're going to be absolutely terrified of Umbrous just existing in your play group, because, you know, like if you have a combo, he can just randomly exile the combo piece. That's the main fear of it. Also, the other fear is like he'll get big enough that he'll just like one-shot people. And you're in black and blue, so you have forms of evasion to get through any potential blockers and start one-shotting. So very scary. Voltron Commander gets really big really, really quickly. It is 5 mana though, and it has no protection from no inherent protection from removal. So you shut him down just by interacting with him a lot. But it's a creature that gets really, really big. It's very scary against combo decks. It's very scary that it can just one-shot people. And it's very scary for me. If I remember playing Cauldron deck, if I'm playing Cauldron and I see Umbrus at the battlefield at the table, I have to kill them. Like they're enemy number 1, because like anytime they recast Umbrus or cast a Nightmare of Horror, they might get one of my Cauldron pieces. Love from the UK, man. Hey Ryan, how's it going? Thanks for the love back, much love back from Toronto. So yeah, I think Umbrus is pretty sweet. I want to see like Nightmares and Horrors and Changelings and whatever, triggering this ability, maybe using some stuff like Ingest and whatnot. Oblivion Sober is a really good one as well. It's cool. It will get hated out of the table though. Like if you're up against any combo deck, they have to focus you first because, they have combos and you could just randomly exile it. So that's something to note. I think it's going to be mostly a Voltron deck. It's going to be focused around, what is it, like Malakir Rebirth? One of my favorite cards. You need to focus around giving Umbrus evasion, protecting Umbrus from removal, so you can Malakir Rebirth and whatnot, and do things like that. And it's just a neat card. I like it. And it keeps combo decks honest. Though, if I ever see you playing Umbrus against me with Cauldron, I will do everything in my power to kill you. Let it be known. Let it be known. I would be afraid of that in stream, but I don't think Umbrus is going to show up on MTGO. So there's that. But yeah, it's a cool concept for sure. So I like it. It's all good. It's all gravy. All right, friends. That was 25 new cards in the span of what? Under 3 hours. So, woof. Let it be known that I take my sweet time talking about cards. I thank every one of you for sticking with me all this way. And that's basically it. Unless anybody has like any questions or anything before we sign off. This is time to take questions. If you have any, speak now or forever hold your peace, I believe the term is for the Crimson Vow. And thank you, Veron, for the vet and the dingles. Because yes, generally speaking, these Wednesdays or /Thursdays or whatever, these streams are usually gameplay streams. Usually I'm playing Magic Online, playing Commander games on Magic Online. And if you're interested in joining me in a future stream, just send me a little email saying that you're interested in joining the stream. I'll set you up on the Discord. You need to have a working mic. You need to have your own deck on Magic Online. And we'll get you in on a future gameplay stream for sure. Why is your favorite commander Tomerthar? My favorite commander is going to be Runa Stromkirk, all right? I really like Cthulhu, all right? I'm a simple man. What's a Selesnya S tier legend? It's Torrens. Blip. Let's get them all. My boy's nice and big. So C monster tier is Runa Stromkirk. S tier is Toxrill, Millicent, Strephon, Torrens, Umbrus. A tier is Anya, Donal, Gronk, Helena and Alina, Olivia, Timothar. B is Aruth, Gerolf, Rhoda, Timon, Katilda, Jacob, Loreen, and Camber. C is Dorothea or Dorothy, Henrika, Old Rutstein. D is Odric Bloodcurse, and then finally Nap tier is Edgar Charmed Groom. Can you just do a quick rundown from the top down? Boom! I did it, nailed it. I'm psychic. Glad that we finally get a respite on the actual sets for this year. Yes, the damned. God, I'm gonna sleep so much. So in the near future, you can expect from me 2 precons. an upgrade on both of the new precons. We're gonna have a top 10 commander with Seth. The video is gonna be coming out sometime later this week or early next week. My full commander review, my full commander set review is out, so you can find them over on mtggoldfish.com. There's no video or anything. It's just full article reviews. So you can find all of them over here. So I go pretty thorough on that. What else? Oh, in terms of decks, I'm going to be doing an update to my werewolf deck. My werewolf tribal deck did a different Midnight Hunt. There's a bunch of new werewolves from Crimson Vow, like this one, and like this one, and like Howlpack Piper is the best of the best. So all of those have to be added, and then I'm going to do an update on my Madness Vampire deck. And then I got another one, which is like very janky. It's Jund. Give your opponents artifacts and punish them for it. It's very janky. So all of that is going to be done. And after that, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to go into my coffin, and I'm going to emerge when the next freaking set comes out, all right? All right? That's my plan. By the end of the next week, this is going to be how I look like. This is how I'm going to look. I'm going to look exactly like Edgar Charmed Groom. And I'm going to sleep in my coffin. All right? That's the plan. I'm looking forward to it. All right, everybody. That's it for the stream. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed the discourse. Thank you for being with me here. If you disagree with the ranking scheme in a given way, you're wrong. You're not wrong. It's everybody's opinion. All right. Bye. Later.